Do, 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 do. Blame it all on my roots. I showed up in boots. Ruin your black tie affair. Let's go.
I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati.
All right. Happy Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you're new, I do want to let you know that Sabby Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there once a month for our monthly roundtable, and you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Shout out to everyone watching on YouTube and Twitter, because I had issue trying to create a live stream on Rumble today. I don't know what's going on there. It could have been on my end. But so sorry about that for the Rumble folks. But we're here. We are here, ladies and gents. We have a lot to get into tonight. Tonight's theme is Friends in Low Places. Garth Brooks had a song called Friends in Low Places. And when we talk about friends in low places tonight, we're not talking about lower class. We're talking about corruption low, that type of low place. And all this will tie together, as you guys will see. I want to start out by giving shout outs to people in the chat. What is going on, fam? We are back at it. Yes, we are. Shout out to Phoenix. You should interview Corey Feldman. It's interesting. I have a clip I'm going to show of him as well for one of the stories. But from what I understand, Corey Feldman, I think, is a Zionist. And you know my rule, I don't bring Zionists on the show. But I hear you. Shout out to Biscuit. My research reveals Erika is one of Epstein's flock, which did include others you may not expect. Candace Owens, Lauren Bobart, Pam Bondi, Scientologists, as well as Cash and his Mossad girlfriend. I don't know about that, but I do have some things to share about Erika that came my way. Greetings, Christina. Didn't know this guy was up in every place, spying on all and networking to sabotage common people's lives. Yeah, he was everywhere, wasn't he? Just like a spy. Greetings, mighty. The Kingdom of Morocco. Cash at Marrakech. Shout out to Maddie. I knew about it through the Netflix doc and Whitney Webb. Yeah, if you haven't done so, please be sure to answer that poll question, and that's pinned at the top of the chat. I'm just curious to see how many of you are familiar with some of the information that is being revealed. So I will look at that poll at the end of the show, and we'll see the results there. If you have not seen the other videos, don't worry. They don't go in a particular order. I did create 3 Epstein videos already over the weekend that I put out because there was so much information in the files. I had to do it that way. Otherwise, we would have been here all day. So this is part 4. Okay, this is part 4. Greetings. Obi says, I knew through David Icke and Alex Jones in the early 2000s. Interesting. Alex Jones is singing a different tune now. Shout out to George Turnage, who just became a Sabby member. Let's give George a big whoop whoop. And greetings, Emmett Armstrong. Shout out to Emmett Armstrong, who also just became a Sabby member. Give them a big whoop whoop as well. Greetings, Blockbuster says hi. Shout out to FYI. The old male imperialist, pedo-dominated Western world is falling apart, as it must. Yeah, I will say the good that's coming out of all of this is that more people have been awakened. And I just don't think, the thing I will say about the Epstein files is like, once you see this and you realize just how corrupt the world has been, just how corrupt the elites have been, you don't unsee it, right? Like it stays with you, so you know. Greetings, Ronnie. Hello, Sabby. Hope all is well with you. I'm not shocked so much at what these monsters do anymore, but I'm sickened by all of this. Every one of these pedos needs to be imprisoned for life. Greetings, peace, love. Why is our African hero Traore pictured next to those good for nothing miscreants? Well, he's just one of the stories tonight. He's just one of the stories. What's up, peace, love? Greetings, Edo Weiss. Lots of good comments on live chat are not visible on top chat. Yeah, that's a YouTube thing. You just have to change the setting to live chat. I have no control over that, unfortunately. Greetings, Silver Sulfur says, Sabby, I would love to see you interview Sister Soldier someday. You know, I've been wondering if she still does interviews. That would be an interesting conversation to have. Greetings, Janine says, hey, good people. Let me go prepare my snacks for the show. Shout out to Wild Cattery. The ruling class are a bunch of sick pedophile rapists running the show. Protect the children. Investigative reports. GZA. And I wish I could shout out everybody, but we do got to get the show going, ladies and gents. We will do call in after the show. So after the show, if you want to call in and voice your opinion, we'll be doing that as well. We do that once a week for those who are new. So again, tonight's theme is friends in low places. We're talking about corruption, the people in those types of low places, not lower class. Let's go ahead and give a shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. All right. Thank you guys so much for your support. Really do appreciate you, Sabby patrons. If you're interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories here. We have the ultimate, the Sabinators. Don't forget about those Sabsters. I think they're pretty cool. We also have Sabbies, of course. And last but not least, we have the members. Let's give it up for all of them, fam. All of their names are listed here, and you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker throughout the live show. We have a new Sabby patron. We call them newbies. Let's give it up for Lisa Pfeiffer. Welcome, Lisa. Welcome. And thank you. Thank you all. Okie dokie. It's getting hot in here. But keep on your clothes. Keep on your clothes because we have quite a bit to get into. Let's go ahead and look at that thumbnail, ladies and gentlemen, so you can see what we are discussing tonight. Let's go ahead and get into it, fam. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are discussing Epstein Files Part 4. I have already done 3 parts about this. Because it's just been so much information. Notice it says there, but wait, there's more. And I feel like every day there is more information that is released that's probably going to come to a halt when I tell you what the Justice Department has decided to do now with those files. But we're going to get into that. I have some interesting updates to share with you there. We're also going to discuss some information has been sent my way by friends of the show about Erika Kirk and Andrew Colvett. Some interesting things here about their background that I did not know and we have not discussed yet. So we're going to have to get into all of that. Who are these people? Who are these people? Where did they come from? We're also diving into this. Donald Trump is not having a good week. No, he is not having a good week. Donald Trump is in trouble. Wait till we show you these new poll results. We are in a midterm year. It's already not looking good for Donald Trump and the Republican Party. If this continues, they're definitely going to lose the House this year. And Donald Trump has already announced he's going to try to do something to prevent that. So, of course, you know, you got to jump in there and try to do something. We're also going to discuss Burkina Faso. We still have our eyes on you. They just did something recently that is getting quite a bit of a stir. We cannot forget about Captain Ibrahim Traore and what he is doing there in Burkina Faso, uplifting the people, and they're trying to be self-sufficient. They want the West out. And two recent decisions, obviously, I think is going to upset the West. So we're going to get into that. Last but not least, if you have not heard, Donald Trump is heavily attacking Thomas Massie, and he is now going after his wife. Yeah, I don't know. It's like we're in high school or middle school or something. I don't get it. It's ridiculous. It's immature. But Thomas Massie is clapping back, and he is standing strong there. So we're going to get into all of those stories tonight, ladies and gents. Before we get started, if you can do me a solid and smash that like button, thank you. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Let's go ahead and dive on in. Again, the theme tonight is friends in low places. Low places. Bottom of the barrel corruption. That's actually a good song by Garth Brooks. You know, I used to be one of these people. I didn't really like country music back in the day. And then when I was in high school, I made friends with this girl. Still my best friend till today. She was actually one of my bridesmaids. And she introduced me to country music. She played this song by Garth Brooks, Friends in Low Places. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I might like a country song. Then she played this song by Tim McGraw. I don't know if everybody's familiar. You should know who Tim McGraw is by this time, right? He also is an actor, not just a country singer. She played this song by Tim McGraw. And after that, my life was forever changed. And I could no longer say I like all genre of music except for country. I couldn't say that anymore. So you guys give a shout out and a thanks to Naomi for that one, because she's the one that got me into listening to, I think, more modern country music, right? Like not the older style. I think the only older style country musician I liked was Johnny Cash, because I felt like his sound was a little bit more gritty and I like that. But thank Naomi. She's the one that got me into that. Okay, let's go ahead and get into this first story, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump is in trouble. And it's not just because of the Epstein files. It's because of what is happening to his party right now, because he has not fulfilled his presidential promises and he's pissing a lot of people off. Let's go ahead and take a look what is happening. We are running the numbers, ladies and gentlemen, here with the midterms. They are already seeing trouble in Texas.
This morning, there are Republicans across the country who are nervous. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis put this on Twitter. He said special elections are quirky and not necessarily projectable, a general election. That said, a swing of this magnitude is not something that can be dismissed. Republicans should be clear-eyed about the political environment heading into the midterm. What is he talking about? What has him and other Republicans so worried? CNN chief data analyst Harry Enton is here. And this is all about a special election for a Texas state Senate seat around Fort Worth.
That's exactly right. Texas 9, because what happened in Texas 9, it didn't just swing to the left. It took a rocket ship to the left. My goodness gracious, the Texas 9 Senate district election marches. This was a district that Donald Trump won by 17 points in 2024. The Democratic candidate in the special election on Saturday, won it by 14 points. That's an over 30-point shift to the left. any Republican, unlike Ron DeSantis, who doesn't take this seriously, they should realize that this is very perilous. They ignore this result at their own peril. Ron DeSantis is right to say, hey, special elections can be quirky, but this ain't no quirk.
No, it's not a quirk. And I know this guy always gets so excited when he does this. You can tell this is somebody that really loves their job. But the point that he is making here, that area of Texas is usually not swinging that way. I have friends that live in Texas as well, that live in like that North Texas area. I also know people that live in like Houston and Austin, and these are completely different places. Houston, definitely a lot more blue. Austin, definitely blue. But that area of Texas, the northern Texas area, tends not to go so far that way. You can see the numbers right there. So you're already starting to see a shift in this district that Donald Trump won by plus 17 points, now going over to the Democrats by plus 14 points. And there's no doubt in my mind that a lot of this is basic economics, right? People seeing that their economic needs are not being met. Let's continue on. And the ICE stuff too. I think that's also some of the things that's pissing people off. But people in Texas, I think, are not unused to that because Governor Abbott, you know how he is on that train as well.
Pete Sessions from Texas basically told me, he said, no Democrat should ever win in North Texas like this. Although he also said, there was an ice storm, 31 points. That's not an ice storm.
No, that ain't no ice storm. If you ignore this, you're going to ice yourself out of a majority come the midterm.
All right, when we look at these special elections, and this is something you and I talk about a lot and look at very closely in between the federal elections, what can they tell us?
Okay, so, you see this 31-point shift to the left, right? If this were just one election, that would be one thing. But it's the slew of special elections that together paint a picture, and it's a picture that Democrats should love and a picture that Republicans should be really worried about. Because what are we talking about here? Okay, the average 2025, 26 special election, Democrats are doing, get this, 12 points better. 12 points better than Kamala Harris did in 2024. That was a state special election that happened in Texas on Saturday. If you look at the federal special elections, this 12 points is actually north of 15 points on average. I was looking back through the history books. This looks a whole heck of a lot like what we saw during the 2017-2018 cycle, where you saw these Democrats outperforming how Hillary Clinton did in 2016. And what did it forecast? It forecast a net gain of 40 seats for Democrats. And I remember back in Pennsylvania, remember there was that Southwestern, that was a congressional special election seat, but that was one in which the Democratic candidate was able to actually win a deeply red Republican district. And that, of course, foretold big Democratic gains come 2018.
Yeah, and we've been calling it, right? We've been telling people, FM said, why is he so loud? I don't know. He's very animated about his job. But the writing is already on the wall, right? Guys, do you realize we have not had a president? It's been 10 years now, about 10th year. We haven't had a president that has had a consecutive term in 10 years. Donald Trump won in 2016, did not win re-election. Biden won in 2020, did not win re-election. Donald Trump won in 2024. He's not supposed to be running for 2028, but if this keeps up, I would say the Democrats are on a path to win in 2028. This is all just, again, basic economics. People are flipping back and forth. And by the people, I mean the independents, right? The registered independents that can kind of go one way or the other. I wish independents voted independently, voted for independent candidates or third party candidates. But a lot of times they swing back and forth. And that's what you're seeing is happening because the economy has been a mess. The economy has been a mess since the pandemic. The economy also, I would say, didn't really fully recover since the 2008 housing crisis. So we're looking at years of people having economic pain. So what people are doing is they just swing back and forth in between parties. Now, the sad part about all this is, and you'll see that as we get into more of the corruption talk, is that both parties are corporate. Both parties have corruption. Both parties are controlled by the billionaire donor class. That's just a reality. That's not my opinion. We've run the numbers before on this show. And ultimately, I think we're starting to reach a breaking point where more people are like, okay, how long is this supposed to go on? How long are we supposed to struggle here? And now you're starting to see another issue where people are losing their jobs because of AI, artificial intelligence. It is only a matter of time where people are really going to have to sit down and come up with a plan, a financial plan for the working class in this country. Because the more they keep developing AI, the more these jobs are going to go away and people are going to need some type of help. But especially when it comes to foreign policy, ever since October 7th, more Americans are starting to pay attention to where their money is going. So now more people are like, why are we giving $3.8 billion a year to Israel? Why is the defense budget so high, but everyone in this country doesn't have health care? Everyone in this country doesn't have a place to live. Our homelessness crisis continues to increase in this country. The money is being mismanaged, and that's really what it comes down to. But that's because they answer to their donors. So what my fear is that everybody's going to have this shift back over to the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party is still going to answer to the donor class. So people still are going to struggle economically. Let's continue on here.
Foretells how? I mean, how frequently do these special elections foretell what happens in the midterms?
Okay, so you see this 12-point overperformance. You see this 31-point overperformance. But that don't mean nothing if it ain't forecastable to the midterm elections. So what are we looking at here? Well, take a look at special elections since all the way back in the 2005-2006 cycle. 5 out of 5 times the party that outperforms in the special elections goes on to win the U.S. House of Representatives. And this, of course, all paints a picture, right? Texas 9, the special elections, the history of special elections in which Democrats look like they're in the catbird seat to take back the U.S. House come 2026 November.
Which is why Ron DeSantis and others are nervous this morning.
Yeah, that's why Ron DeSantis is speaking out. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said anything. So I know sometimes people say that special elections don't really matter, but it can foreshadow what is to come. Here's another one here. Now, this one is specifically about Donald Trump. Look at this one. It's Harry Enton again. Like I said, he is very excited.
Look here, net approval rating on the economy. You go back to this point in the Joe Biden presidency, he was 19 points underwater. You go into Donald Trump's presidency, hey, he started off in the positive territory at plus 6 points. But down he goes, down the slide into the ocean. He goes negative 20 points. Donald Trump is actually in slightly worse position right now in the economy than Joe Biden was in this presidency. Trump administration.
I'm just laughing because of the way he said it. Down the slide he goes. All right. So what is the Trump administration? The focus here. Look at what people are saying.
Is focusing too little on lowering prices. The vast majority, 3 in 4 Americans say he's focusing too little on lowering prices. That's why he's going into Iowa. What is he focusing too much on? He's focusing too much on deportations at 50.
See, this is what I was telling people. This is what I was telling you. So you're not prioritizing lowering prices, the economic needs, and you're focusing too much on the deportations. So people at the end of the day, people look at their wallets. People look at their bank account. And that's really what it comes down to. This is not good for Donald Trump. I mean, put this on top of the Epstein files. Holy smokes. And so maybe this is why he made this announcement earlier today. Trump urges Republicans to nationalize elections. What does that mean? Let's get into all of this, folks, here. President Donald Trump has called for nationalizing voting, the latest in a series of proposed election changes. He spoke with former FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino on his podcast. Dan Bongino. I'm just sorry. That guy is really losing it lately, but let me continue on. He spoke with Dan Bongino. His administration continues to claim fraud for the 2020 election, despite lacking evidence. He accused Democrats without evidence of bringing migrants to the U.S. to vote, though only U.S. citizens are allowed to vote in federal and state elections. The Republicans would say we want to take over. We should take over the voting in at least 15 places, he said. The Republicans ought to nationalize the voting. We have states that are so crooked. It's one of several controversial comments that Trump has made regarding upcoming elections. But what does that even mean? So, for one, if things were looking positively for the Republican Party, I don't think that Donald Trump would be saying this. I mean, he kind of cuckoo, so who knows? But the reality is he already knows it's not looking good. Just as though, the same way that we show polls on this show and we look at polls, they have seen the polls before us. They see internal polls. They already know what's happening before those polls are released to us. So let's go on a little bit more here. What does it mean to nationalize an election? The U.S. election system is decentralized. There are more than 10,000 election jurisdictions in the U.S., including counties and townships, and each state has its own election official and set of rules. The election clause of the U.S. Constitution states that times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof, though Congress may make or alter regulations. The president is elected through a state elector system. And while the number of electors is set, the way those electors are chosen is largely up to the state and political party. If you nationalize voting, this would be a departure from this, though Trump did not go into specifics on the podcast. When asked to elaborate, White House spokesman Abigail Jackson said, Trump cares deeply about the safety and security of our elections. That's why he's urged Congress to pass the SAVE Act and other legislative proposals that would establish a uniform standard of photo ID for voting, prohibit no excuse mail-in voting, and end the practice of ballot harvesting. So now we're starting to see, again, I would say this is an act of desperation, right? Because here's the thing. We don't have real democracy in this country. We don't have real democracy when candidates are kicked off the ballot. Third-party independent candidates are kicked off the ballot. I mean, it is what it is. Everybody keeps talking about the 2020 presidential election, but let's keep it real. Let's go back to Bush, Gore. People are acting like this is a new thing. It's not a new thing. The way it basically works is whoever the elites, the ruling class wants in, that's who gets in. 99.9% of the time. Okay? So the elites obviously saw that Donald Trump would be good for them. But then also, we went through all of this last year during the 2024 presidential election. Kamala Harris was not a strong candidate. And I warned people about this early on. I saw her in person in 2020. I saw Kamala Harris speak in person right in New Hampshire. I didn't think she was a strong candidate then. That was back in 2020 when she was running the Democrat primary. Kamala Harris wasn't a strong candidate. She wouldn't distance herself from Joe Biden. That was a big, big mistake. And we cannot forget the foreign policy decisions, right? Like the Israel-Gaza issue is a big issue, especially for younger voters. And it was a bad, bad, bad decision for her to say she would not withhold weapons to Israel. So what ended up happening is some of the people who voted for Biden in 2020 did not come out to vote for Kamala in 2024. For that reason alone, I know because I talked to people on the ground. The other thing that happened is some people said they were going to take their chances with Donald Trump because the genocide started under Biden and Kamala. So that's how you get here. But what you are seeing now, it does not look good for Donald Trump or for the Republican Party. And he is just now in the second year of the presidency. And I saw this same similarity under Biden's presidential term. After that first year, in the beginning, people kind of still have some hope and they're like, you just started, let's get the ball going. But usually after that first year, it's like, and that's what Trump is seeing right now. So Teflon Don isn't so bulletproof after all, huh? He's starting to see that people can turn on him too. Because the reality is people say, well, what about 2020? Had it not been for the pandemic, Donald Trump would have run re-election. I've said this multiple times. So the economy is a big issue and you can't forget about that. Now, people are wondering, is he actually going to be able to nationalize voting? I don't know. Donald Trump has friends in low places. He has a lot of corrupt friends out there. I feel like if he wants to try to get something done, he might be able to do that, don't you? I don't see anybody stopping him. Let's go to some of the comments, ladies and gents. All right. Thank you, Ruscon. Hello, everybody. Sabby and Kevin. Who's Kevin? Oh, maybe you mean Eric. my producer. Looking forward to another great podcast. Thank you for speaking truth to power. Don't give in, give up, or give out. Keep standing on the side of truth. Thank you. Nikki said, Sabby, have you ever thought of interviewing the journalist Bob Fidrakis? If I can find a way to get in touch with him, yes. I know he was investigating Epstein as well, Wexner, Mega Group, and Ohio organized crime long before Whitney. Yes, I haven't been able to find a way to get in touch with him, but I can check again. Bryce said, everyone has been on the Epstein files. I'm glad this is out in the open. Thank you for the super chat, Grant. I got friends in low places. Clifford says, look up Johnny Cash's first wife. Okay, I will look into that, Clifford. Thank you, Moneymaker. ICE is a huge problem. People are scared. It is killing the economy. You should focus on it more. I believe I just talked about that fairly recently, but thank you. Rosa. What do you get when you play a country record backwards? You get your girlfriend back, your dog back, and your house back. Okay. Thank you, Marlon, who's been a member for 11 months. Where are the grassroots independent candidates? If you vote Democrat, you will find yourself right back where you started with Biden and Kamala. Well, I've interviewed grassroots independent candidates on the show. I mean, Butch Ware, I interviewed him. He's running for governor of California. Anthony Aguilar will be here Thursday evening. He's running as well independently. He's running for Congress. So they're out there. They're on shows. I would also say, if you don't, I don't know if you do, but definitely make sure you watch Bad Faith podcast, because I know Bree brings on a lot of candidates too. And thank you for the super chat, JNE. You have such beautiful vibes. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That is good to know. All right, let's keep it moving and grooving. We're moving on to the next story, ladies and gentlemen. This is a big one, big one, big one. We have not forgotten about Burkina Faso. Captain Ibrahim Traore has been doing significant things there. They kicked France out. He said he does not want the West in his country. He formed an alliance called the AES, which also includes Mali. I know I'm forgetting one in there as well. But he has stand firm on this, that he does not want the West intervening at all. And two things just happened recently that I think is giving the West pause. Here's the first one, something I would love to see happen in this country. Burkina Faso just banned political parties. It's the latest of several measures that rights groups say are shrinking the civic space of the Sahel nation. Now, what you have to understand, again, when they're talking about rights groups, you have to look into some of these organizations. A lot of them are puppets of the West, and they support, obviously, these countries following the path of the West, of the US, of France. Like France was all up in there, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, stealing their resources, etc. But let's get into this, ladies and gentlemen. That is him. That is Captain Ibrahim Traore. He has been, they love him. They love him there. And this is another one that I say keep an eye on. The West may try to find a way to take him out. He has had over 20 assassination attempts on his life. He's one of the leaders that they see as a significant threat because, again, he does not want the West there. He does not want the imperialism. They want to be self-sufficient, similar to Libya and Gaddafi. So they are banning political parties. After several years of suspension, political parties in Burkina Faso have formally been dissolved by the military government, which has also seized all their assets in a move analysts say is a major blow for democracy in the West African nation. So why is it a blow to democracy to abolish political parties? Because, like, when you look back at history, you will see that the founding fathers of this country did not agree with political parties. And the reason why they did not support political parties is because that they feared that people would side with their party over policy or over issues. And that's exactly what we have in this country. You have candidates that are part of different parties that may feel differently about certain issues, but when that legislation comes to the floor for a vote, they follow party leadership. We've seen this before with the squad. So Roger Meadows, friend of the show, woke me up to this idea a year ago. He said, why do we need to have political parties? Why? I think it's a way to keep us more divided, right? If you think about that. In a decree issued on Thursday, the government led by Captain Ibrahim Traore scrapped all laws which established and regulated political parties, accusing them of failing to comply with the guidelines. Listen to the way Al Jazeera describes this. Troubled. The troubled West African nation is struggling with violence from armed groups linked to ISIL, ISIS, and Al-Qaeda. It is one of the growing number of West and Central African nations to have undergone coups in recent years. And as we've said before on the show, as we've dived into this, right? A lot of times these groups, these fragments that are still left over of ISIS, they're just created by the West. They're created by the CIA. They're created by these intel groups to go into these countries that want to be self-sufficient and to disrupt and cause chaos. Why? So then the West can come in and say, we have to come in and save the people, protect the women and the children, which doesn't really work that much anymore since they backed a whole damn genocide. But they'll use that logic and then they come in and they overthrow the leader. And they've been trying to get rid of him for quite some time. Traore seized power in September 2022, 8 months after an earlier military coup had already overthrown the democratically elected president, Roch-Marc Kabore. Despite strong criticism by rights groups and opposition politicians of his authoritarian approach, 37-year-old Traore has successfully built up an online cult-like following among Pan-Africanists, with many likening him to the late Burkinabe revolutionary leader Thomas Sankara. You know, it's interesting that they say it's an online cult following when you can actually see videos on YouTube of people in Burkina Faso being very happy with what he is doing and that he is there. They're building their own roads. They're developing, they're improving their infrastructure without the West. France is pissed because they can't come into Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali and steal like their resources anymore. Imagine being in a country that is rich with resources, but you're not getting it because Western countries come in and they steal it. And then everybody looks at you and they say everybody there is poor. Think about that for a second. Traore's anti-colonial, anti-imperial pronouncements are often shown in high-definition AI-generated videos that have gained him widespread admiration across the internet. But the decision to ban political parties does not sit well for democracy. See this? It's all about democracy, right? And then a lot of times they say that when some of the Western countries say that, oh, this country is not practicing democracy, it really a lot of times means that this country is not allowing the West to come in and do what they want to do. I thought you should see this from Al Jazeera because Al Jazeera doesn't always get it right either. They can be a hit or miss. Remember, they're also in Qatar, so you know how they can bend on certain things. That was the first announcement. Here's the second announcement. And I know the West is fuming over this one. 3 West African juntas have turned to Russia. Oh boy. Now the U.S. wants to engage them. So here we go again. The U.S. has declared a stark policy shift towards 3 West African countries which are battling Islamist insurgents and whose military governments have broken defense ties with France and turned towards Russia. So does everybody see what's happening now? So the AES, which is Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, they formed this alliance called the AES. They're anti-imperialists. They don't want you there. Okay. And honestly, I think they have every right to do that. I don't think the West should be in these countries and taking over people and killing people, killing their leaders. We ain't got time for none of that. We don't need to be there. We got problems right here in the United States. That's why our country is falling apart. So they formed this alliance called the AES, and they're working together as a unit. Now, Jeffrey Sachs said something really recently, and I think this is an interesting point. He said that All the countries in Africa need to band together as one to fight imperialism and to keep the West out. So the West has its eye on the AES because something like this can easily spread. And the moment that it spreads to other African countries, then the US will see it as a threat. Oh no, they're trying to be on their own. Oh dear God, how dare they? We got to stop that. Similar things to what you see right now with BRICS, with other countries that have joined BRICS. They decided to create a multipolar coalition among each other. They also are tired of being under the thumb of the West, and they want to do their own thing. And I believe they have every right to do that. So now, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, apparently, according to this, have turned towards Russia. And see, the West can't have that. The West can't have that. The State Department announced that Nick Checker, head of the Bureau of African Affairs, would visit Mali's capital, Bamako, to convey the U.S. respect for Mali's sovereignty. So here we go. And chart a new course in relations, moving past policy missteps. It adds that the U.S. looks forward to cooperating with Mali's allies, neighboring Burkina Faso and Niger, on shared security and economic interests. So do you see what the U.S. government is already trying to do? We understand that you want to be secure. We understand you want to have a growing, thriving economy. Let's work together. As this is not worked out well. It's worked out terribly for other countries in Africa as well and across the world when you look at the global south as well. And that's because they are looking towards Russia. Vladimir Putin, say whatever you feel about him. For whatever reason, it seems as though he has been able to communicate to African countries in such a way that makes them feel like they can work with him and not be stomped on. And there's a difference. So again, this multipolar world that BRICS is wanting and trying to establish, more and more people, more and more countries, when they see the wickedness of the West, when they see how the West continuously back the genocide of the Palestinian people, when they see that the West continuously overthrows leaders in other countries, bombs other countries, they are turning away from the West and they are willing to work with other countries. Let's go on a little bit more here. Absent from the agenda is the longstanding American concern for democracy and human rights. Imagine talking about human rights now. The Biden administration had halted military cooperation after coups deposed the elected civilian presidents of all three countries between 2020 and 2023, with Niger's Mohamed Bazoum still locked up in his own residence. The U.S. statement makes explicit a radical change in policy that had become increasingly evident over the 12 months since Donald Trump returned to the White House. So it's just really interesting to me that our government can sit here and call out human rights issues, which a lot of times what you'll see, these things aren't even real. They are orchestrated and created by the CIA, by the West. We call them the color revolutions, where they create this unrest in these countries to make it seem like the people are really upset when usually that's not the case. But how are you going to call out human rights issues that you believe another country is doing when you sat up there for years and backed a whole damn genocide? How are you? It's laughable at this point. The U.S. government has no leg to stand on when it comes to human rights. And everybody sees it now. But what you are seeing is that Burkina Faso is finding a way to do what is best for their people. And whether we agree with that or not is really not the concern. It's none of our business. We have no right to tell them what to do with their people in their country. They make those decisions. And I look back and I think about it. You know, I get kind of envious sometimes When I see other countries building roads that actually withstand, when I see other countries trying to end homelessness in their country, giving housing to everybody in their country, and then I drive over a bridge that has a hole in it right here in the United States, I get a little jealous. Not going to lie. Because the reality is, if we didn't put, not us personally, but if our government didn't put so much of their money, into defense, into these wars, into nonsense, if our government didn't work as hard to cover and protect Wall Street and the bankers, we could have that life. You look at the infrastructure in China, we are way behind, way behind. You look at the homelessness rates across the world. We are up there with the highest ones. Now, we're supposed to be this wealthy, great nation. Why is there so many homeless people here? Why are so many people getting evicted? Why do we have bridges with holes in them? Why do we have bridges falling apart and collapsing? Why do we have infrastructure that is constantly falling apart? Why do we have public schools that don't have all the resources that they need? Because America decided a long time ago that it wanted to be this imperial power and it wanted to be the best and the strongest. And any other country that was going to be some type of competition, the US government decided they were going to take down. That's how we got here. But empires don't last forever. Rome is the best example. And we are now at a point where the United States empire is falling down. There was a book we read when I was in school, like back in the day. My teacher used to read it to us. It was called Wayside High is Falling Down. The United States of America is falling down. And all of these little band-aids that Trump or Biden or anyone else tried to use to just put over the wound, the band-aids are falling off and the wound is still present because they never tried to heal the wound. And I also think it's interesting that when we had so much manufacturing here in the United States and people were able to have a decent job working at a factory and they made so much money, or maybe not a lot of money, but they made enough money to get by, to get a house, to take care of their family. They didn't have to go to college to get a degree just to be able to have a family. The fact that we had so much manufacturing in this country at one point in time, and people got greedy and said, let's actually have these parts made overseas because it's cheaper. That's not the fault of China. That's not the fault of Russia. That's not the fault of anyone else. Those decisions were made right here. And that's why these cities like Detroit, that's why they fell apart. Cleveland, all the Rust Belt, all those cities, that's why they fell apart. Once the jobs left, those cities started to collapse because someone decided to be greedy. So we've had plenty of time, our government had plenty of time to rebuild sustainable infrastructure and to make American workers get back to that place again. And every time they try to find a shortcut, whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's overloading some workers and laying off others to cut costs and cut money. And that's why we got here. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you for the super chat, Sticky Icky. Interesting name. America has to be everywhere. Our first world living requires natural resources. Every purchase we make feeds the empire. To stop the empire is to look at our consumption addiction. I think you have a point there, right? I think we can be pretty spoiled in some ways, right? We've gotten used to a certain type of lifestyle, but I think you have a point that consumption would need to change. Thank you, Measured Man. Our country needs to take 6 months to mind our business and 6 months to leave other country businesses alone. I agree. Thank you, Sticky. Our government subsidizes the world. Thank you, Roger. Red, blue, no matter who, who wins, we still lose. AI serves the boss agenda to fire all of us. Worker co-ops for the working class serve each other. Yeah, it's true. And thank you so much for the super sticker, Chris. Dun, dun, dun. All right, all right. I think we're doing pretty well on time. If you haven't had a chance to do so, ladies and gents, please smash that like. Thank you. And let's keep it moving and grooving. Again, the theme is friends in low places. And that brings me to Erika Kirk and Andrew Colvin. I made a video on the show a while back about Erika Kirk's background because it was surprising to me. I did not know much about her. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know all this. This is wild, right? But now I've received new information about Erika's background yet again that somehow just went right over my head. And Andrew Colvin, who seems to have a very interesting background. So let's get started with Erika Kirk first. We talk about how did Erika get to where she is. We've talked about the possibility of her being a honeypot. We've mentioned that before as well. Well, now something has been brought to my attention. You know how she talks about this whole trad wife, this traditional wife thing that she talks about a lot? I mean, I just keep finding out about more and more jobs that Erika has that I didn't know about. And this one connection is very, very troubling. To take you back, just a reminder of what she said when she was asked about giving advice to women.
Erika, you have made a lot of comments that a lot of people have noticed about women, suggesting, you know this, right? Suggesting that women should get married young, that they should have children young, that they should prioritize family over their careers. And at the same time, you are now doing both. You now have 2 young children, I think both under the age of 3. And you're the CEO and chairwoman of Turning Point. Square that for us. Right. Some people look at you and say, you know, she's trying to make it a binary choice. You can be the trad wife or the girl boss, but look at her. She's having both. Well, what do you say to them?
Right. Well, I didn't ask for this. Obviously it's a blessing that I view it as a blessing. It's a duty to my husband. But I was very happy being a stay-at-home mom. There's nothing wrong with being a mother.
So I don't believe that. With everything that I've shown you on the show, I do not believe that she was very happy being a stay-at-home mom. And you're going to see a bit of that in just a second. I believe what Erika Kirk really wanted when she was obviously trying to get into entertainment industry. She's been in music videos. She auditioned with her then boyfriend for The Amazing Race. They auditioned together as a couple. You're going to see the video I'm going to show you about when she was doing the fashion industry interview. I believe that was what Erika wanted. That's what I believe. And stay-at-home mom, we're going to get into the whole stay-at-home mom thing because it doesn't look like that's really what she was. Let's go on a little bit more.
It's actually more beautiful and emotional and powerful job title, if you will, being a mother. And for me, I experienced what it was like living in New York, living that boss babe culture. But when I met Charlie and we had our babies, I was in it. That was all hands on deck. I would take that world in a heartbeat. Always. But you know what? There was never any daylight between Charlie and I, and his mission was my mission. So stepping into this role is not so much a job title. This is not a 9-to-5 for me. This is something that I'm very passionate about because it's still a remaining breathing version of my husband, this Turning Point USA. So this organization is not just a company to me. And the staff and employees are not staff and employees, they're family. And so for me, it's a lot different and a lot deeper than a career. This is very personal.
One of the things I noticed during this conversation is that she seemed to get rather defensive during that part of the conversation. And as much as I loathe Barry Weiss didn't ask that question in a nasty way, right? But she came off kind of defensive. I mean, honestly, looking at it, you're telling people that they need to just go ahead and get married and have kids, but that's not what you were doing. And that's not what you're doing right now. And we're going to get into that as well. So it's kind of like, it kills me. There are some people that have been selling this whole traditional wife bit, and they have people fooled into thinking, well, all I do is just stay at home and take care of the kids. When a lot of these women have businesses on the side that you just don't know about. So you're still working. So that's the thing. Giving people this idea that in today's reality, I don't know anyone that can stay home. No one. I don't know anyone that can afford not to work. Not one person, not one of my friends. They all work. Let's go on a little bit more.
But yes, it is hard. But at the same day, it takes a village. And I have one heck of a village.
We have a woman here that has a question perfectly calibrated to this part of our conversation. Yeah. I want to hand it over to Isabella Regi.
Thank you. And Erika, you and your family are in my prayers.
Thank you.
I'm a 26-year-old Christian woman living in New York City. I would like to stay here long term, but I wonder whether it's sustainable. Do you believe there's a place for women like myself in modern cities who care about having a career, but also marrying a like-minded Christian conservative man?
Well, yeah. So it just depends on where you're looking. If you're on the apps, I don't know if you're on the apps. I don't know if, I'm not going to ask you your personal journey, but what I will say is when I lived out here, I was here for 5 years. I never dated here because I saw vicariously through my roommate how terrible it was. Somehow getting drinks was the replacement of having coffee and breakfast. I personally would rather have coffee or brunch with someone than I don't drink. I find it unproductive, not because I'm holier than whatever. I just don't operate that way.
She was drinking on camera, guys. I just don't get this.
But I always thought it was very strange how she would go to drinks with one guy and then go to dinner with another. So it goes twofold here. So if you're expecting to marry someone that I was blessed with, like a Charlie, you have to be the type of woman that will attract a Charlie. Are you going to church? Are you going to Bible study? Did you tell your pastor that you are ready for the Lord to bring into your life the man that you've been praying for? You yourself need to be prepared for that man, and only you will know how to do that. Does that mean staying out and going out with the girls? I'm not saying you sit on your couch and all of a sudden he's going to knock on your door and be like, honey, let's rendezvous. Like, that's not how it happens. It's not. Granted, my situation was a little different. I wouldn't do it.
You went to a job interview.
Literally. So this is how good the Lord is. He knew that because I was not dating in New York City, he knew that in order for me to know that that was my man, he had to blanket Charlie as a job interview. Because
so did God do that? Or was that what she was instructed to do? Was that her little mission, her assignment? Because how many jobs Erika going to have? So we're going to get to the next part here, because this is what I want to show you. Like when I'm talking about jobs, this was Erika Kirk when she was applying for fashion jobs. There's nothing more important than an education. I have the entrepreneurial gift. I'm teachable, moldable, and ready to fly. Erika Kirk to young girls: get married, stay home, and have lots of babies. But this is who I think Erika Kirk really is. This person right here. So just a flashback when she was interviewing for the fashion industry.
Tell me about your experiences in fashion.
I did not go to fashion school, but I am self-taught. So I graduated with political science and international relations. And although that background to some might seem a little bit foreign to the fashion world, I think that it's actually very helpful because fashion is international and you have to understand people because the consumer is what's buying your product. And if you are able to create a line or a brand that embodies international aspects, whether that be art, architecture, anything that's different with the fabrics and the feel of the brand and the line, that draws people to it. And so for me, I'm looking at this from a pragmatic business standpoint. Although I don't know how to sew and cut, I mean, I can sew a pillow together, but I can't take fabrics and create this couture dress. That's not me. But I'm able to see design. I'm able to pick up on certain things and be able to put things together. So for me, not necessarily having formal training, I would rather learn from people and individuals than from textbooks. I even had that life experience with my family. I come from a bloodline of entrepreneurs, and I learned from my mom, how to basically run a company. And that's how I was able to formulate my nonprofit. And that's what also made me change my major, because originally I was business. So I do feel like.
So we got a lot going on here, right? And I'm not to say people can't change their mind. People do change their mind. But she went from business to political science. Okay, people change majors throughout college. But when people tend to major in political science and international relations, I told you about that major, these people are looking to get into government. They're usually looking to, whether it's to become a politician, whether it's to work for the federal government in some way, shape, or form, they're looking to get into that space. That's why people tend to major in that. AOC also had that same major, international relations, right? So here she is entering for a fashion job, right? Okay. Here's what I did not know. This was brought to my attention. I didn't know that Erika Kirk was a real estate agent. Did you know that? Like, at this point, Erika got 5 jobs. What's the song? Who's the guy? Kevin Gates. Doesn't he sing the song, I Don't Get Tired? I'm just trying to get in how I live. I want them dead presidents. I want to pull up, head spent, get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs. I don't get tired. At this point, she is Kevin Gates. So this is where you find out about the real estate part. Listen to this.
This is probably going to lose a lot of you, so please, please just listen to me, okay? I am a card-carrying conservative, but something is up with the wife, okay? Something is up with the fact that she had never done a pageant before and just so happened to get a modeling offer in the mail, and then she just so happened to win Miss Arizona USA 2012. There's something up with the fact that she was 17 and started a nonprofit where she worked alongside the United States military in Romania, doing work with orphanages at the same period that Romania was having one of its largest trafficking crises in its history. There's also something up with the fact that she is a licensed real estate agent in the state of New York, and she worked for the same real estate group that did business with Jeffrey Epstein.
That's the part right there. I had to look it up for myself. We'll come back to the video. I want to show you the real estate company so you guys can see this for yourself, all right? Like, she's not exaggerating. She's not just putting random things out there. Shout out to Hustle. This guy's been on it. Hustle Bitch said, it just got a little bit stranger. Erika Kirk, the real estate agent. After the assassination of Charlie Kirk, people began combing through timelines, behavior, digital footprints, etc. Then we go into this part. Publicly visible Zillow, Realtor.com, and other profiles under her previous name, Erika Fransby. The Zillow profile lists her as working for the Corcoran Group, the firm founded by Shark Tank star Barbara Corcoran. And yes, they did get involved with Epstein's real estate. Look, I'll show you this video first. Check this out. Again, licensed real estate agent. So I'm just going to show you myself so you can see it as well. This was her LinkedIn. That's interesting. Her picture's gone all of a sudden. It wasn't gone earlier. Maybe that's just a glitch on my end. Erika Fransby. I don't know, man. That picture was there earlier today. Anyway, if you look at it here, the owner of Proclaim Streetwear, that started in December 2018. Real estate agent right there. The Corcoran Group, that started also 2018. CEO, founder, Everyday Heroes Like You, 2000 started 2006, and of course Miss Arizona. But this one is the big one, the Corcoran Group. So yeah, so I want to say something, guys, about real estate really quick. When you're first starting out as a real estate agent, you really do have to kind of make your mark, right? Like you got to really sell in order to move on to some of these more prestigious real estate firms. I find it very interesting that she started with that group. This is not a real estate company that focuses on like, just mid-tier New York City apartments. They focus on wealthy real estate, which I'm going to show you in just a second. Oftentimes, to get those positions, you have to already have experience that you can sell. So I find it very weird that that was her first job in real estate. And yes, the woman who is one of the hosts on Shark Tank, Barbara Corcoran, that's her company. I mean, put all these things together. When we talk about Miss Arizona, didn't have much experience in the pageant industry, goes on to win Miss Arizona, right? Got a real estate license, goes to work for the Corcoran Group. I didn't see any prior real estate experience. That's pretty interesting. And when we're talking about New York City real estate, those real estate companies are even more picky, because being a real estate agent in New York City and being a real estate agent in Savannah, Georgia are two completely different things. So kind of weird. I mean, maybe she's just the luckiest person in the world. So that connection is interesting. We're going to go back to that video, and then we're going to get back into that Corcoran Group because I want to show you the Epstein stuff as well.
And she was very, very successful on her own before the mutual friend set her up for her interview with Charlie for Turning Point. And sources are saying that that friend was President Trump. You guys, she was already successful. She had this vision. And now there are rumors that allegedly Netanyahu was going to free up $150 million of American Jewish money to Turning Point USA. And Charlie declined it. And you guys, just since Charlie's death, Turning Point USA has gotten over 18,000 chapter requests across the United States. I did not hear one mention of Israel or Netanyahu or the backlash that Charlie had been facing in Erika's speech. And today, when the Charlie Kirk show was live, none of his friends or co-workers said one thing about it while they were all talking about the alleged shooter in.
And another thing, because she mentioned Donald Trump, we all know Donald Trump also comes from real estate. So it almost sounds like if there's someone who could tap someone on the shoulder and put in a good word for her to get that job at the Corcoran Group, it almost seems like that would have been Donald Trump, no? Real estate giant in New York City. I mean, if you have a good word from Donald Trump, and you hear that Donald Trump's the one that set her up with the job with Turning Point USA, doesn't this all just seem kind of, I don't know, suspicious? Now we go back to that group, and I do want to show you this as well, because like I said, I do want to show you the receipts. You can see it right here. Jeffrey Epstein's home in New York and Palm Beach are for sale for a combined $110 million. This was published in 2020. So let's jump down here. I'll just go ahead and show you where that group comes into the matter here. Epstein's waterfront property in Palm Beach, Florida is priced at $21.9 million, according to a listing verified by Carrie Warwick of the Corcoran Group. Dun, dun, dun. Now, let's see if there was a sale, because even on their website, the Corcoran Group's website, Jerry Epstein's Palm Beach house sells for $19 million. Right here, featuring the sale of Kerry Warwick's listing at 358 El Brillo Way, Palm Beach. So does anybody find it kind of weird that Erika just happened to work for the same real estate company that ended up selling Jeffrey Epstein's properties? And she was able to get a job with this real estate company. I mean, these people are selling real estate that's in the millions. So she just got her first real estate gig, just happened to be right then and right there. What this goes to show you once again, people, is that it's not about if you worked hard enough. It's about who you know. Because you can come in with no experience and get it just like that. That's really what it's about. It's just a little weird. It's just a little strange. We talk about friends in low places, corrupt low places. We also have to mention Andrew Kovic, because I did not know quite a bit about him. People have started to look into his background. Shout out to Travis, also known as ex-Nielo. The untold story of Andrew Kovic, Turning Point USA spokesperson. Andrew Kovic tells Martha McCallum that Trump-era Celebrity Apprentice and Trump's friend Mark Burnett is what ultimately led him to Charlie Kirk. We're going to get into why this is important. Andrew also confirms his father was a district attorney. Andrew is definitely underselling that fact, but it's enough for us to figure out the rest. The correction: based on available documents, Brent Kovic did not serve in Vietnam. The claim originated with Grok in September, was echoed by a celeb Podium article, and was then proliferated by Grok afterwards. What is documented is far more interesting. Brent Kovic was a Nevada prosecutor with fingerprints on some of the state's most aggressive prosecutions, most contentious reversals, and most politically charged legal fights. A UNR 72 McGeorge Law 76 graduate, Kovic ran the Douglas County DA's firm from 1979 to 1995, an era defined by hardline prosecution, capital punishment pushes, and repeated judicial friction. That friction surfaced early. In Lyons versus State, 1989, the Nevada Supreme Court reversed a conviction after Kovic's office induced a guilty plea for conduct that wasn't criminal under Nevada law, explicitly citing prosecutorial misrepresentation. Not a technicality, a failure of candor. Kovic doubled down. As DA, he pursued the death penalty in multiple cases, including Young versus 9th Judicial District Court, where his death notice survived challenge amid re-election scrutiny, and Gear versus 9th Judicial District Court, a robbery murder case emblematic of his capital first approach. Let's jump forward here. Today, Kovic practices as an equity partner, Thorndale Armstrong. With a father that well connected, Andrew Kovic's ties to the legal world and the ruling class don't just run deep. They are part of who he is.
Andrew, it's great to have you with us again. I always like to start with something that maybe people don't know about you and how you got to where you are right now in your life. Give us a little insight.
Yeah, I mean, I was working in Hollywood before I started working with Charlie. That's actually how I ended up working with Charlie. I was working with Mark Burnett. People would know him from. He did Celebrity Apprentice, which is a weird sort of full circle moment for me.
Yeah.
So here we go with the Hollywood again. So Andrew Kovic was working in Hollywood. Sounds like Andrew Kovic wanted to get into entertainment, similar to Erika Kirk. It seems like to me, essentially, these people were just actors. Like literally. Let's go on a little bit more here.
That ended up setting me on a path where Charlie and I's, lives would intersect, and which is a wild thing to think from a kid from Chicago. I grew up in Nevada, son of ranchers, Italian ranchers, and rodeos and baseball and chewing tobacco. And my dad was a district attorney when I was really little, and then he just was a lawyer after that. And so I had a little tiny sliver of political experience when I was really, really little, and a small rural town and county in Nevada. And but anyway, so to end up in Los Angeles, and then for somehow that to make it so that Charlie and I's paths would cross
is wild, right? Yeah. They're all people who wanted to be actors and didn't make it as actors. I just find that kind of interesting. Let's go on a little bit more here. Let me bring this back up. Okay. So this here, that is from Travis. Now let's go to the next part. Here's something else that's a little bit weird. Andrew Colvett, spokesperson to Turning Point USA, was introduced to Charlie Kirk by Donald Trump and Epstein listers. So you already heard him say on that audio that he knew Mark Burnett. So let's go on a little bit more here. Andrew Colvett met Charlie through Epstein lister Mark Burnett while Andrew was employed by Burnett's chief of staff, Johnny Moore. Let's go on a little bit here. Here's a screenshot of an email from Jeffrey Epstein. President-elect Donald Trump kicked around ideas for his inauguration, his office at Trump Tower on Tuesday with two of his oldest friends, Mark Burnett and Thomas Barack. So again, did Erika and Andrew get to where they are just because they worked hard and they just showed up for a job interview? Or was a lot of this arranged by Donald Trump and Donald Trump's buddies? Let's go on more. You'll see more here about Andrew. Mark Burnett is a British-American TV producer. He's best known for The Apprentice. We talked about that a little bit more there. Here's another email from Jeffrey Epstein. And there's some type of engagement here with Mark Burnett. Mark Burnett says to Sarah, "I will be very glad to find a place for you on The Celebrity Apprentice. The more I think about it, the more sense it makes for you. You already live in New York. It's for charity and it rewards fun characters." So here's that connection between Mark Burnett and Jeffrey Epstein. And Andrew Colvett was friends with Mark Burnett. I mean, a lot of things are just making me scratch my head over the years. Beyond working with Trump for over a decade on The Apprentice, Burnett's move into religion would prove pivotal to his friendship with Trump. With the help of Burnett's chief of staff, Johnny Moore, the duo funneled religious influence into policy. By 2017, Burnett and Trump were attending the National Prayer Breakfast together. In 2024, Burnett was appointed by Trump to be the U.S. Special Envoy to the United Kingdom. In fact, you can hear Andrew talk about part of this here with Mark Burnett.
So I was actually living and working in Hollywood. I had a job working with Mark Burnett, of The Voice, Celebrity Apprentice, Survivor, Shark Tank. So he was doing those projects, and then at some point he got into faith-based content. I was thrown into the deep end of, one day we would be at Jimmy Kimmel, or we'd be, at one of the nightly shows, and then we would go to CNN, and then we go to Fox, and then we'd be at a church.
So there you go, right? So all these people that were so-called trying to be actors just end up into this faith-based content. It goes on to say here, Andrew met Charlie Kirk while Colvett was employed at a public relations firm, the Carroll's Company, co-founded by Johnny Moore. So who is Johnny? Johnny Moore's career took off when he became the senior vice president of communications at Liberty University. Stop. Guess who went to Liberty University? Erika Kirk. That was one of the schools that she went to. She went to, I think, 3 schools for undergrad, but she also went to Liberty. Okie doke. Let's carry on. Naturally, he worked closely with Jerry Falwell Jr., leading the religious university before he transitioned to Hollywood in 2014. When he made his transition to Hollywood, he not only became chief of staff to Burnett, he was the vice president of faith for United Artists Media Group, later MGM Television. In 2015, Moore would found the Carols Company, a boutique PR firm specializing in crisis management for faith-based clients, including higher education institutions, Hollywood productions, political figures, and religious organizations such as Focus on the Family and Marriott Hotels. And here is Andrew Colvett talking about Johnny Moore.
Mark's chief of staff, a guy named Johnny Moore at the time, started a PR company, asked me to start it with him. I wanted to write screenplays, actually. Doing the LA thing, my head was still very much in that space, and I wanted to make content. And so I kind of refused, and then he said, why don't you just work a couple days a week, help me get this thing off the ground, and then you can do your own thing. And along the way, we started bringing on conservative clients. So ended up, PragerU was one of those clients. We ended up bringing on The Blaze as a client. Mark's chief of staff.
So there you go. He said he wanted to write screenplays. So you're starting to see like who these people really are. Let's continue more here. Moore's entanglement with Trump would crystallize in 2016 when he was appointed co-chair of Trump's Evangelical Executive Advisory Board alongside figures like Ralph Reed. Moore became the de facto spokesperson for Trump's evangelical advisors. His tenure in Trump's sphere has been little more than a thin veil for Zionism, advancing his pro-Israel agenda. In 2025, he was appointed the executive chairman of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, following Jake Wood's abrupt resignation on May 26. And you guys know we've talked before on the show multiple times about the GHF and how that's actually a scam and they were not helping the Palestinian people. Let's go on more here. That brings us to Andrew Colvett and how he met Charlie Kirk. Johnny Moore, the chief of staff to Mark Burnett, had encountered Kirk at an undisclosed event in South Florida. At this event, Moore suggested to Charlie that he should reach out to Andrew Colvett. Charlie did not reach out to Andrew. It was Andrew who wrote an email to Charlie. Charlie ghosted Andrew at first. Interesting, huh? The crisis that prompted Charlie to contact Andrew Colvett was intense backlash over a 2018 investigative expose by The New Yorker titled, "A conservative nonprofit that seeks to transform college campuses faces allegations of racial bias and illegal campaign activity." Written by Jane Mayer, the piece revealed leaked messages from Turning Point staffer Crystal Clanton and accused the organization violating IRS nonprofit rules through partisan activities. So aren't we starting to see repeats here? As much as we're talking about Turning Point USA's tax issues today, this was an issue back in 2018. See how Moore is coming out? Kirk initially attempted to manage the fallout himself, but the New Yorker story was brutally amplified by organizations like the Young America's Foundation, the Southern Poverty Law Center, and The Forward. If you are like me, you're asking yourself if there's a common denominator among the owners of media groups that amplify the story against Charlie that would ultimately prompt him to reach out to Andrew Colvett. The answer is yes. The vast majority of news outlets that amplified the story were, we're going to say Zionist here. You know how YouTube is. Were Zionist-owned outlets. Was this a coordinated propaganda campaign? The idea of a PR crisis firm was suggested to Charlie. However, Charlie did not respond to Andrew Colvett on his own. In short order, Charlie was given a reason to respond. Charlie had a problem. Andrew had a solution. Was this how Andrew Colvett was planted in Charlie Kirk's life? You know, I believe that coincidence can happen, but I don't believe in this much coincidence. I also found this very interesting about Andrew Colvett. Did you know that he had married into the Bedingfield family? I'm talking about, and I never knew this either. I'm like, how the hell did this happen? TPUSA, again, Travis is on it. TPUSA spokesman Andrew Colvin was married into the Bedingfield family. Now, who's the Bedingfield family? So, do you guys remember Daniel Bedingfield? He's a musician. He had that song called Gotta Get Through This. I gotta get through this. I gotta get through this. Great singer. He also had a sister, Natasha Bedingfield. She has the song that's the soundtrack of my life. It's the unwritten song. Live your words unspoken. Feel the rain on your lips. Yeah, they're brother and sister, and they're very talented. And apparently, Andrew Colvin, at one point in his lifetime, married into the Bedingfield family. Check it out. We have to have it on mute because of the music. But look, there's Andrew Colvin. Hold on, let me pause here. There's Andrew Colvin with, I guess, who either was his wife at the time or became his wife. And then here is Daniel Bedingfield right next to him. I gotta get through this. I gotta get through this. Gotta make it through. Sorry. Continue on. Is that Natasha in the wedding dress? That might be her in the wedding dress. It says here, premium rates applied. Said Matt Robinson, singer. Yeah, Natasha Bedingfield with Natasha's family, brother Josh Bedingfield, sister Nicola Colvin, and brother Daniel Bedingfield. So yeah, he married into the Bedingfield family. I mean, these people, and I don't know if everybody knows here in the United States, but these people are huge in the UK. Like Daniel Bedingfield at that time, like when he came out, like that was an international success. I still have that CD over there somewhere, that Daniel Bedingfield CD. And Natasha Bedingfield, who can forget the unwritten song? It was the theme song to The Hills, MTV The Hills. These are very famous, talented people. So I just found that very, how coincidental is that? And there it is. Nicola Rochelle Colvin. And it looks like they filed for divorce, 2010, it looks like. I mean, this guy was everywhere. I'm just like, how did you get in the Bedingfield family? So everybody's starting to see. You guys are starting to see. Live your life with words unspoken. Yeah. Wildest theories on divorce, politics clash, faith differences. Who knows? But the point that I'm trying to make is this. And then we'll get to, we talked about the military intelligence, right? How his family was connected. So you have, make sure I got this part here. Oh, the military intelligence. This is the other part. Andrew Colvin's family dynasty, the FBI, military intelligence, and Turning Point USA compliant. So here we go again with the military intelligence. Just jump forward to this part here. Let me go back up to this one. His father, Brent Colvin, and his biological mother, Renee Francine Bridges. Brent and Renee would marry each other in July of 1978. They would have 2 kids together, Curtis and Andrew. After 13 years of marriage, they divorced in 1991. After the divorce, Brent would marry Andrew's stepmother, Denise Capero. At some point, she relocated to Nevada in 1996. Before marrying Andrew's father, Brent, Denise Capero was previously married to Joseph Richard Sizzo Jr., who was named after his paternal grandfather, Reverend Dr. Joseph Richard Sizzo, a well-known theologian and pastor in New York and D.C. Denise and Joseph Sizzo, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, would have 4 kids. Denise's father-in-law and paternal grandfather to the kids was Joseph Mapes Sizzo. Joseph Sizzo was a long-serving FBI official. See, here we go again. In the 1960s and the 1970s, he became the FBI's inspector in charge of Domestic Intelligence Division, effectively making him the right-hand man of William C. Sullivan. The FBI's Domestic Intelligence Division under Sullivan and Sizu would manage major problems, including, peep this, their surveillance and counterintelligence efforts against figures like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., civil rights groups, the Communist Party, and later expansions of COINTELPRO. During his tenure, Sizu would frequently author memos and reports related to these matters, including those tied to MLK surveillance, smear, and removal efforts in the 1960s. COVID would have been around 13 years old when Sizu's name became part of his family and story. While it's unclear if Andrew ever met the paternal grandfather of the 4 step siblings he grew up with, the connection and his similarities is certainly enough to raise eyebrows in the wake of the FBI's pitiful investigation into the assassination of Charlie Kirk. So I get it. People can't help who their parents are, what their parents did for a living. Get it. Got it. Good. But I mean, it just seems very strange that both Erika Kirk and Andrew Colvett come from family ties of intelligence and defense, that both of them went into the entertainment industry. The Andrew Colvett somehow married into the Bedingfield family at some point. It just seems weird. And it makes you wonder if it's the connections and the ties that they had that brought them into Turning Point USA. So I have questions. When you're that well connected, we talk about friends in low places, we're talking about friends in corrupt places. When you're that well connected, the world can be your oyster. You can shoot for the freaking moon. Erika didn't have any experience, yet she was just, it seems like she was put into these positions just like that, where the average person would have not been able to get that opportunity to work at that real estate firm with no real estate experience. Not for luxury real estate. That's not how that works. So, as I said before with Erika, it seems like she was planted into Charlie Kirk's life. Now I wonder about Andrew Colvett, knowing what I know now. Friends in low places, ladies and gentlemen, friends in low places. Let's get to some of the comments here. Eric, can we go to part 2 for the next story? Thank you for the super sticker, Yafat Harris. Thank you. Thank you, Roger Meadows, who's been a member for 31 months. Sab, it's 2026. I told you about abolished parties in 2022. When you put something out into the ether, it'll make its way around the world before it comes back to you. And thank you for this one. Speaketh it into existence, and it shall be. Thank you, What Democracy? Interview Andrea James, independent candidate for Massachusetts Governor F. Moore Healey. Yes, I will contact her. I think her name is on the list of people I need to get in touch with. I will contact her. Thank you, Chip. There are stay-at-home moms, and then there's stay-at-home MK Ultra. I think we know which one Erika was. Sky. Erika Kirk got more jobs than Reba McEntire, and she was a single mom who works too hard, who loves her kids and never stops, with gentle hands and the heart of a fighter. She's a survivor. She's a survivor. Thank you, Yibi. A traditional wife suggesting the app. Thank you, Las. Erika Kirk looks older than 37, to be honest. Okay. Helpful Harm. Amanda Seals at Patreon today. Every political couple is arranged honeypot. Mondami's mom knew Epstein. Dad had CIA scholarship. Same as Barack's dad. Oh, I need to check Amanda Seals' thing. Thank you for that. Thank you, Ruscon. Eric, not Kevin, my apologies. Trump said on a hot mic that he is losing and that's why the administration is trying to rig the game. The economy and the Epstein files are dragging down his second term. Trump is in trouble. Thank you, Julie. Erika Kirk views remind me of The Handmaid's Tale. Thank you, Chip. When she said, I come from a bloodline of entrepreneurs, she was dog whistling. I'm rich and well-connected. Hire me. Thank you, Living Love. I heard that Trump was connected to the beauty pageant where she won Miss America. If so, she's known him a long time. Can anybody else confirm? That's a good point. I do not have confirmation on that, but I can look into that. Thank you, Batty. So many dots connected together. We got a straight line to it's not real. Thank you for the super chat, Dust and Descent. And thank you, Kevin. Liberty equals hotbed of the Christian right. Yeah, Liberty University. Thank you so much for the super sticker, Focus. Thank you. Thank you, Jamar Venable, for becoming a Sabby member. Give Jamar a big whoop whoop. Thank you, Taco. Did I miss you talking about Ibrahim Traore? Yes, I covered the Ibrahim story. Thank you for the super sticker, Mini Bagel. Thank you, Chris. The party that will win for the people is the ACP. I don't know if I even believe in political parties winning for the people. Thank you, Anthony. Yo, Queen, have you heard about population declined Queen? I've been hearing about that for quite some time. Are you talking about in the US or globally? Thank you, Joanne. Always appreciate your perspective, Miss Sabrina. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Thank you, One Box One. Erika has shown a very phony moment. I could look at her eyes and tell she was cold. Can't fool a player. Shout out to One Box for being a member for 27 months. And thank you, Mini Bagel. Sabby found your name in Epstein files. Not bad. Yeah, it's not my name. There are many Sabrinas, but not mine. Okay. All right. We got two more stories for you, ladies and gentlemen. Again, the theme is friends in low places. If you haven't done so, could you please smash the like? Thank you. And let's keep it moving and grooving. Let's get to this Thomas Massie situation. Okay. We're going to do the Epstein story last because it's the longest story. It's going to take some time. Thomas Massie is being bullied heavily by Donald Trump. Thomas Massie is up for re-election. And although my views don't really align with his politically, except for being anti-war and sending this money, overseas and stuff like that, what Donald Trump is doing to Thomas Massie is downright damn near disrespectful at this point in time, because he has now shifted his focus from attacking Thomas Massie to going after his wife. And I feel like that's the lowest of the low because she is not running for office. And Thomas Massie, for those who are not aware, he is remarried. His previous wife died. So we're talking about someone who lost their former wife. Think about, it's been about what, a year? About a year and a half ago. And now the president of the United States, who he 100% supported and backed, is going after his new wife. Let's go ahead and get into it here, ladies and gents. Thomas Massie reveals that FBI Director Kash Patel concluded there were no Epstein clients before reviewing a single interview that could have implicated 20 alleged clients, including 6 billionaires. So this is why Trump is going after Thomas Massie.
But I asked Kash Patel here just recently, the day before he had testified to the Senate, that Epstein, even though there are 1,000 victims, that Epstein was the only perpetrator.
Correct.
And so the next day he came to House Judiciary and I said, well, the victims, which we prefer to call survivors, the ones who are still alive, the survivors tell me that you guys have at least 20 names. And I don't have I told him one of the names, Jess Staley,
right,
who's the CEO.
Jess Staley is also a banker. His name has come up quite a bit. So Thomas Massie let the cat out the bag. You know, he joined alongside Marjorie Taylor Greene and Rokana to help the Epstein victims here because it's the right thing to do. And obviously, he's taken a lot of heat from members of his own party and, of course, Donald Trump because he decided to do that. But what he unveiled in this interview here was that Kash Patel and them are liars, as we all thought, and that not only did they have information, but he was told that they had at least 20 names. So Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino were lying through their teeth. And Donald Trump is mad, not just because Thomas Massie decided to join alongside Rokana and Marjorie Taylor Greene for this effort. He crossed partisan lines, but also because he didn't do what Trump told him to do. He didn't bend the knee. And he let the cat out the bag. He let people know that Kash Patel and them were lying. Let's go on more here.
It said, but there's 19 other names, as 6 of them are billionaires. One's a movie producer. Like, we're not just making these up. You can go find these people in your files. And have you seen anything in your files? No. Well, I said, what about the 302 forms, the FD 302, which you've already referenced, because the survivors know that the FBI memorializes these interviews in these 302 forms. And so have you looked at the 302 forms? And he said, no.
Right.
And I said, well, how can you testify that there's nobody that's done any crimes or any reasonable leads to follow? And he said, well, I trust the people that work for me. Well, that's a problem. If we trusted the people that were working there, Joe Biden would still be president, right? Or Kamala Harris. Donald Trump was elected and they got a new FBI director so that he could go back and check the homework.
Right.
And what's he doing? He's testifying for their homework, which he's never even looked at.
Right.
So that's a problem.
Yeah. So let me just put this up here from the screen. The problem that Thomas Massie ran into is a similar problem that Marjorie Taylor Greene also ran into, whereas that they said they were going to fight for those victims. So they stood by, they kept their word. And Donald Trump sees that as though you are not being loyal, even though they have backed and supported Donald Trump 99.8%. But all it takes is for you to say no to one thing, especially something that also implicates him, makes him look bad in the files. And Donald Trump is done with you. So now what you are going to see is Donald Trump coming after Thomas Massie's wife. Like, I swear to God, we are not in high school. We are not in middle school. But this is where we're at now. Thomas Massie says, so he's attacking my wife who voted for him 3 times. Maybe someone told him she's actually the one who suggested I ask Pam Bondi in person at dinner when we would get phase 2 of the Epstein files. Bondi said there were no more files. As they say, the rest is history. So that was the next lie. Pam Bondi saying that there weren't any more files. Well, we know that's all false. Even this last dump of files that just happened still aren't all the files. They're only letting us see what they want us to see. And they already started making changes there, so we can't see that anymore. So Donald Trump goes on to go after his wife. People are saying that Thomas Massie became a liberal because his new wife, blessed be their marriage, is supposedly a radical left flamethrower. This new union all went so fast that maybe he didn't know what he was getting into, but nevertheless, he's absolutely terrible and unreliable Republican. unreliable Republican. Perhaps a rhino, or maybe even worse. Ed Gallerin, a farmer and a war hero, is running against Massie. He is a high-quality individual, and there's no candidate for Congress that could be better. Couldn't be better. He is running because he realizes Thomas Massie, he's been totally disloyal to the President of the United States. Oh, I forgot to sniff. You know he sniffs a lot. And the Republican Party. He never votes for us. He always goes with the Democrats. Thomas Massie is a complete and total disaster. Total disaster. We must make sure he loses big. Must lose big. Gotta lose big. I added in some extras there at the end because Donald Trump likes to reiterate to add more dramatic effect. So because Thomas Massie didn't run to Donald Trump's beck and call because he disagreed with Donald Trump, now he's a radical left flamethrower. If you don't agree with Trump on everything, you are now radical left flamethrower, which is also acting, by the way. Also acting. You have members of the Trump family that is friends with members of the Biden family. You guys know that? You guys know that? You guys know that Joe Biden's daughter and Donald Trump's daughter, Tiffany, are besties? So this is it's theater, it's circus. All right. So now he's going low, even lower, and going after his wife. Donald Trump, alongside Miriam Adelson, they have organized billions of dollars to try to make sure that Thomas Massie does not get reelected. You have an actual president of the United States interfering in a congressional race to the point that he tapped Miriam Adelson on the shoulder and said, let's make sure we get Thomas Massie out. Now, Thomas Massie probably could win re-election. He's like a libertarian, but he caucuses with the Republican Party most of the time. And then the one few times where he decided, nope, because here's what he's not going to vote for. Thomas Massie is not going to approve money going to Israel, foreign aid. He's not going to approve some of the welfare stuff either. He's one of these big people that's like, no on the spending. If I ever had a conversation with him, I would tell him like, no, we got the money to do it. And I would have to talk to him about modern monetary theory, which tells you that this idea of the debt ceiling is a myth. Thomas Massie went to MIT. He's a very smart guy. So I would tell him about MMT. But anything when it comes to money going to wars, money going to Israel, like he's not going to prove those things. And as a libertarian, I mean, you shouldn't. It's like it goes against the libertarian like principles, you know? So if he's a libertarian, that makes sense. And so it's not like Thomas Massie became like this yesterday. Thomas Massie was also like this under the Biden presidency. But now Donald Trump's in the White House. And Trump's like, no, you don't understand. You're supposed to support me. Marjorie Taylor Greene responded and she said, President Trump treats those who support him the most like crap. Thomas' wife voted for him 3 times. She's not a radical left flamethrower. And Thomas Massie votes with the president 91% of the time, but won't vote to protect Epstein's sick pedophile and rapist friends or send America's hard-earned tax dollars to Israel's wars or any other foreign country. The president should be more concerned with voters who put him in office, like Thomas Massie's wife, not super rich donors and their favorite foreign countries and business demands. Losing elections to Democrats in super red districts like Texas Senate, where Trump endorsed, should be sending warning alarms across the president's desk. But instead, he's attacking Republican Tom Massie, with one of the most conservative voting records in the House and his new wife with a 3-time MAGA voting record. And all the weak Republicans in the House stay silent, refusing to utter even a word of support for their friend Thomas Massie. Shame on every one of you, cowards. You make me sick. That's why she got out of there. Because it's a cult. If you don't go along with the leadership, that's just how it is. It's cult-like mentality, and they'll get rid of you. Donald Trump has friends in low places like Miriam Adelson, and they put a lot of money together to try to get Thomas Massie out of there. And one thing I will say this about Thomas Massie that I do appreciate. During the 2024 presidential election, Thomas Massie was one of the moderators for the third-party independent candidate debate. I've never heard Thomas Massie say, forget about third parties, forget about independents. That I will say. And part of me wonders this time around, if he wins re-election, if he'll change his status to independent. Part of me wonders. So stay tuned for that, folks, because he's really trying to get him out of there. Let's go to some of the comments. Thank you, PSA. Massie's wife death sus, new one handler. Yeah, that was suspicious. I don't know about that one. I wish if I had more info, but I don't. Thank you, Nat. Beatrice Q has an interview with the Conspiracy Files official. She details her experience with Trump at his USA pageant. He's straight up mob. Thank you, Courtney. Not Sabby with the Trump impersonation. I tried. I'm not as great at it, but I tried. Thank you, Sherelle. Uh-oh. You know what to do, Massie. Will Smith already showed you at the Oscars. Thank you, Aaron. Remember to vote independent. There you go. And thank you, Michelle. Hey, Sabby, I wanted to say thank you for all your reporting. You really opened my eyes to how the Dems are controlled opposition. I was a lifetime Dem supporter, now independent. That's what I like to hear. Go ahead, Michelle. Give it up for Michelle. And thank you, Kevin. Jesse Ventura. The debates are like wrestling. On camera, we all hate each other. Behind camera, it's a business. Yep. Thank you so much for that. All right, let's get into the top dog story of the night. And this one is really, really, really the friends in low, low, low places. This is part 4 of the Epstein files. I want to start with this video because what Melinda Gates said here should give everyone pause. If she was able to get this feeling the very first time, and apparently last time that she met Jeffrey Epstein, it makes you wonder, why didn't anyone else get that same feeling? Let's get into it here, ladies and gentlemen. This is a couple years ago. Listen to what Melinda Gates said.
You know, it was also widely reported that Bill had a friendship or business or some kind of contact with Jeffrey Epstein, and that you were not, that was very upsetting to you. Did that play a role in the divorce at all in this process?
Yeah, as I said, it's not one thing, it was many things. But I did not like that he'd had meetings with Jeffrey Epstein, no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you made that clear to him?
I made that clear to him. I also met Jeffrey Epstein exactly one time.
Did you?
Yes, because I wanted to see who this man was. And I regretted it from the second I stepped in the door. He was abhorrent. He was evil personified. I had nightmares about it afterwards. So, you know, my heart breaks for these young women because that's how I felt. And here I'm an older woman. My God, I feel terrible for those young women. It's awful.
You felt that the moment you walked in? I didn't realize
was awful.
That. Yeah. And you shared that with Bill, and he still continued to spend time with him?
Any of the questions remaining about what Bill's relationship there was, those are for Bill to answer.
Okay.
So if Melinda Gates said that when she first met Jeffrey Epstein, she thought that he was evil personified, that is a strong statement. And if she got that feeling, if she felt that way, Why didn't anybody else get that feeling? We talk about evil personified, and I want to take you to something that was said a long time ago. And that was from someone who was in Hollywood, who warned people what was going on long ago. And that is Corey Feldman. Now, Corey Feldman, is interesting. He made this connection with Hollywood, but he never made that connection all the way back to Israel, which is really interesting to me. From what I understand, he's pro-Israel. So he started to make the connection, but he didn't make it fully. But he tried to tell people, listen to what Corey Feldman said. Even as he got older, he stood by what he said they were doing to these children. Listen.
You believe that children are being abused by pedophiles in Hollywood.
Absolutely.
So why are you sitting down talking to me? Why aren't you sitting down with the police right now?
I've told the police. In fact, if anybody wants to go back to 1993 when I was interviewed by the Santa Barbara Police Department, I sat there and I gave them the names. They're on record. They have all of this information, but they were scanning Michael Jackson. All they cared about was trying to find something on Michael Jackson.
Who you said, by the way, did not abuse you.
Who Michael was innocent.
You've said you've had death threats.
Yes.
Because you have this information
yes.
and have threatened to expose it. Another reason, I think, to go to police, that's a crime to threaten someone's life.
I've gone to the police with that as well.
And what would be wrong with going to the police now again? Didn't work out in Santa Barbara.
There's a statute of limitations, Matt, in the state of California, which protects people. It's not that way in New York. It's that way only where the movie industry is, conveniently enough, in California. That's the seriousness of this. You cannot, because if I were to go to the police, I would be the one who's getting sued.
Corey Feldman talked about this a long time ago. He was pretty much blackballed for coming forward about it. He had a friend who was also named Corey. They were known as the two Coreys, Corey Feldman and Corey Haim. Corey Haim, unfortunately, passed away a couple of years ago. Corey Haim, he turned to drugs to deal with the abuse. Both of them said that they were sexually abused in Hollywood when they were kids. So people have been saying this for years. I show you this to let you know this did not start with Jeffrey Epstein. Yes, Jeffrey Epstein is probably one of the more popular people that you know about it, but it didn't start from him. But Epstein's niece, she says something here about how a lot of this was not just diabolical, but also satanic. Listen to this.
The cult of Baal, B-A-L. My family masqueraded themselves as Jewish publicly, but behind closed doors, at Passover dinners, when I was drugged, would admit, we are Satanists. They told me that we belonged to the cult of Baal, B-A-apostrophe-A-L. They told me this with consistency while I was being abused. Now, what you can look up about the cult of Baal, information that is publicly available, is that it is thousands of years old. It is a Phoenician satanic fertility cult. And publicly, it's supposed to have been eradicated. But to my knowledge and my experience, it is not.
Yeah. But see, when people talk about these things, you're called a nut job, you're called crazy, and all these types of things. So we're not just talking about people who were trafficking underage people. We're talking about an entire, you know what I mean? This is an entire network of things. So that's a satanic cult. And yes, satanic cults have rituals that they perform. And I look back sometimes and I think if people would have listened to Corey Feldman, if they were to listen to some of the people who did come forward at that point in time, a lot of abuse could have been prevented. But the way that I kind of see it, a lot of those people were complicit. They were a part of the problem. You can't tell me some of those producers and directors and studio owners didn't know these things were going on. There was also a CIA whistleblower who also came forward. His name was Robert Steele. He is long gone with us now. He also talked about these trafficking issues long time ago. Listen to this.
This is bred by families as a cash crop. We have people in the United States of America that breed children in order to sell them. And when they are sold, they come without birth certificates, which means it's easier to kill them and have no one ask where they are. We're also importing children by the plane load. Again, children who have no documentation. It's not just child slavery or child sex abuse. It's also child torture, because you have adrenalized blood. You have the whole blood drinking ceremony of the satanic world. It's also the use of children for harvesting body organs. And then you have ritual ceremonies and ritual murder, as well as incidental murder. Most organizations that end up being used to prey on children, Oxfam is a recent example. All of the United Nations organizations, the Boy Scouts of America, all of the child services agencies across the United States of America, they did not start out as organizations to prey on children, but they attract and ultimately end up rising in the ranks and controlling those organizations, so that an organization that initially started out in the service of children becomes an organization that is in fact hunting children
and exploiting children. Why do you think there's all these abuse cases that came from Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts? I think now it's just Scouts. Why do you think you hear about the abuse cases that come from those organizations? Someone at some point should look into foster families, the whole foster care system. There's a lot of abuse issues that come from that. And it's interesting when he mentioned the whole ritual part and he talked about drinking like the blood and stuff like that. You know who said publicly that they do the drinking of the blood? Actress Megan Fox. Actress Megan Fox is on video, on interviews talking about this, where her and I guess this is when she's with Machine Gun Kelly or whatever, they do this ritual where they do drink each other's blood or whatever. It's just weird. And she was always kind of cuckoo anyway. But I mean, this information is not hidden. It's just that when people talk about it, then you're called crazy, nutso, and all that type of stuff. This guy died. He was looking into a lot of this stuff. He focused on trafficking of children and abuses and all those types of things. To show you how bad these files have been, since I said this is now part 4 for the Epstein files, they're already removing information. I guess it's a good thing we made those videos. Right now, as you'll see, over 460 Epstein files on Trump are removed. Yes, that one too. On January 30th, and this guy's been on it, on January 30th, there were 5,361 files when you search for Trump. Today, February 2nd, 4,896 files remain. The infamous file on Trump that is in the video below has been removed. I want to show you guys. Remember this file here, the one that was in the first Epstein file video I covered this past week. It was all highlighted yellow. That was all, a lot of that was about Donald Trump. Okay, watch this. Wait for it. Now he takes that file number, you put it in there. Data set, page not found. It's gone. So that big document, that big drop there of Donald Trump is now gone from the DOJ's files. So again, covering and protecting Donald Trump. We have another piece of information that dropped in the Epstein files. This one is wild since we were talking about the sacrificing of people and all that types of stuff. Check this one out. Shout out to James Lee for this one. The sender of this email giving Jeffrey Epstein permission to kill him. It appears to be Susan Hamblin, a financial advisor and founder of the adoption agency Kids to Families. So you can see it here because sometimes these redactions are not perfect, you guys. And if you look close enough, you can still see the name. And it's sent to Jeffrey Epstein. This was 2014. No one will lie to you and get away with it from me. No one. Whoops is correct. And that is in response to the whoops here from Jeffrey Epstein. And that's in response to this message here. I give you permission to kill him. He is apparently with Olga. He lied to you and he lied to me. So we have someone who is the founder of an adoption agency, Kids to Families, who's on an email giving Jeffrey Epstein permission to off someone. People need to look into these adoption agencies too, to see what's really going on. But people think you're crazy when you talk about this. We have argued before on the show whether or not Jeffrey Epstein is even still alive. I mean, none of us believe that he offed himself. And now there's information that apparently says Jeffrey Epstein left his cell the night before, also in the Epstein files. Shout out to Heather C. Epstein files. This is huge. The individuals who anonymously posted on 4chan the morning of Epstein's death, August 10, 2019, claiming he witnessed weird happenings at the prison before Epstein's death had been identified in the Epstein files. Roberto Grijalva, an officer at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York, has been identified as an anonymous prison employee who posted on 4chan claiming Epstein left his cell Friday evening shackled in a medical wheelchair, while at the same time, an unauthorized trip van arrived at the prison, which he believes took Epstein away the night before the news broke of his death. Thank you, Louisiana. Grijalva, thank you. I knew somebody would help me there. The day after Epstein's death, U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Berman of the SDNY opened a grand jury proceeding and subpoenaed 4chan, Apple, AT&T, and Citibank for their records, aiming to uncover Grijalva's identity following the anonymous 4chan post. His name is not redacted on his bank records included in the SDNY subpoena response from Citibank for his 4chan post, and ties to the same prison officer, Roberto Grijalva, whose statements were released as part of the prison investigation into Epstein's death. This is huge. We now have validation. The 4chan post from August 10th, 2019 is a legitimate eyewitness account from an MCC prison officer that Epstein may have been switched out before the news broke of his alleged untimely offing. Here's images here. Highlighted here. You guys, I'm shaking right now, but I think they switched him out. The trip van did not sign in, and we did not record the plate number, and a guy in a green dress military outfit was in the back of the van, according to the tower guy who let him through the gate. You didn't hear about corporate media talk about this. Again, see the information that's coming out now? There's a comment here, not saying anything after this. Please do not try to dox me. But last night after 4:15 count, they took him medical in a wheelchair, front cuffed, but not one triage nurse says they spoke to him. Next thing we knew, a trip van shows up. I mean, people have said this before, and they said, how do you even know that Jeffrey Epstein is dead? I mean, we really don't know. Honestly, we really don't. But that's interesting, isn't it? Jeffrey Epstein, another thing that was revealed here, him and Ghislaine were dirty, nasty, sick people. Epstein and Maxwell buried 2 foreign kids who were strangled to death during rough sex. Actually, let me keep it like this because it's larger this way. This is from Edie, Oregon. Let's go down here. Subject Jeffrey Epstein. Edward, this is sensitive, so it will be the first and last email depending on your discretion. You can choose to take it or trash it, but this comes from a person that has been there and seen it all as a former staff at the Zorro. So remember, Jeffrey Epstein had multiple properties. One of those was also that Zorro Ranch. So this is taking us back to the Zorro Ranch. It goes on to say here, the material below was taken from Jeffrey Epstein's home as my insurance in case of future litigation against Epstein. Sorry, no questions. What is damning about Jeffrey Epstein is yet to be written. Did you know somewhere in the hills outside the Zorro, 2 foreign girls were buried on orders of Jeffrey and Madam G, this is Jelaine, both died by strangulation during rough fetish sex. And then apparently they shared video footage because they said, here are the video footage of Jeffrey Epstein. And they had links at some point, which obviously, we don't have here. But one of them even said that there was the video of him with a minor. This was 2019. We're talking about nasty, down low people. And all these people hang together. These are the friends in low, corrupt places. We talk about the media and Jeffrey Epstein's ties to the media. Appears he was closer to Rupert Murdoch than people may have thought. Shout out to Loki. This email seems to imply that Epstein stayed at Rupert Murdoch's house 4 years after being legally required to register as an offender. It says here, to Jeffrey Epstein, this is in 2012. I'm a little confused. What are you up to? Or he, Ian, is up to? Are you staying with Rupert too? Can you tell me a little about Ian as well as his home base, Camel? Ian is staying with Rupert Murdoch and his wife. That's what I'm up to. Rupert Murdoch, who owns Fox News. We can't expect corporate media to tell the truth and to report all of this, what they're supposed to, when you got people who own a freaking network, a media network, who was a friend of Jeffrey Epstein, and he's staying at his house. So these are things that you need to pay attention to. Again, email there. Let me go to the next one. When we talk about the money, Jeffrey Epstein had a bank account called The Ball and asked someone at JP Morgan to wire him over $11,000. Remember we just talked about this? The Ball is a demonic figure and an enemy to Jesus as written in the Holy Bible. I mean, I don't know how much more information people need, but if you click on it here, JP Morgan Financial Sponsors, July 29, 2009, and you'll see it right here. Ball, name, that was Wachovia Bank at that time. Please wire $11,438 to Ball. I mean, it's there. It's one of those things like it's there. It's out in the open. But obviously, we wouldn't have known. We wouldn't have been able to see this type of information, right? Like what someone's bank account was named. But it's like in so many words, Jeffrey Epstein was telling people who he was without actually saying, this is who I am. And we all know the story about him and JP Morgan and Chase. And I told you guys before how JP Morgan had to turn around and they had to pay that money to the Virgin Islands because that's where a lot of these crimes happen. Not all of them, but that's where a lot of them happened. Let's go back here. Let's go to part 2. Eric, there's a lot of information here. Now, some of the files that come through, as I said before in the other videos, some of the files that come through, some of them were tips, some of them are, like emails, etc. But we're just going through what's in the files. Speaking of which, Jeffrey Epstein, another thing, seemed to not like black people too much. This is another thing that repeatedly came up, especially her, Peggy Siegel. Supremacist Peggy Siegel, one of Hollywood's most powerful publicists, and Epstein had a lot to say about black people, complained there were too many blacks at the Isle of France. Island has no history of plantations or you can't make this up. This is bad. It's very tiny, so I'm just going to read it to you from afar. There are too many blacks on the Isle of France. Oh my God. I can see him here. Hold on. There are no black locals. I'm sorry, guys. That one's really tiny. But that's basically what they were saying there. The island has no history of plantations and no ghettos. So she was basically saying, like, why are these black people here? There's a number of emails that are in the Epstein files where Jeffrey Epstein makes it very clear about he didn't want no black people around. No black people. This one here is interesting because they also talk about Jay-Z. If I was Jay-Z, I would be embarrassed by this exchange right here. This is from Jess Stolley to Jeffrey Epstein. Jess Stolley is a banker. He's also was connected with JP Morgan. So we mentioned him before in the other video. You want to know why we are not Sao Paulo? Watch the TV ads on the Super Bowl. It's all about hip blacks in hip cars with white women. The group that should be in the streets has been bought off by Jay-Z. That is from Jess Stolley at the time of Blue Mountain Capital. In other words, they were basically, seemed like to me he was trying to say that Jay-Z wasn't doing what he was supposed to be doing with the black community. But also, the fuck is hip blacks? Where are the hip blacks? You see how they talk about us? But no, but then you have people like wanting to do business with them. And this is what I'm saying. And another one is Brett Ratner. This one we really got to dive into because Brett Ratner was just on Piers Morgan's show talking about his movie Melania. And so, of course, Piers Morgan did ask him about the picture of him in the Epstein files. But Brett Ratner isn't telling the whole story, which Whitney Webb had explained months ago about his connection. This guy right here, that's Brett Ratner. This guy has criminal ties. Now, I don't know if Piers Morgan knew that, but he definitely didn't bring it up. But listen to what he said about this picture of him and Brett Ratner.
The very serious and big stories in the news, the Epstein files. As you know, the picture came out of you with Jeffrey Epstein with two apparently young women in it. What is your response to that picture? And what is your response to the wider scandal of the Epstein files?
Oh, well, that picture in particular happened around 20 years ago, 19, 20 to 21 years ago, because that is a photograph of my fiance who invited me to this event. And that's where the picture was taken. I was never been in contact with Jeffrey Epstein before that photo, and I was never in contact with him after. So that's a picture of me and my fiance at some event.
Wow. So who was the fiance, if you don't mind me asking?
She doesn't want me sharing her name in the case, but that's my fiance, 100%. Was my fiance.
But you're not still. I'm not.
I was
going to say you're not still with that.
No.
He's not engaged.
Yeah.
It's the world's longest engagement.
No,
20 years.
20 years ago, I was engaged to her when that photo was taken.
Why is this guy coming in to speak for Brett Ratner? He looks pretty nervous here.
Right.
Yes.
And your position is you never met Epstein before or after that picture that night?
No, never. Never.
What is your opinion of the Epstein file scandal? As this more and more stuff cascades out, more and more people, very high profile people are dragged in. What is your view of this?
I mean, it's horrible. You see, I've been somehow sucked in, through an image. So, there's so many stories about so many different people.
It's horrible. I somehow been sucked into it. No. You weren't sucked into it. This guy. So first of all, it's not just that photo. Brett Ratner, this guy has a history, which Unlimited Hangout exposed months ago. It's not just about that picture of him in the files. So I'm going to let him finish, and I'm going to show you his history and all these connections that he has.
It's hard to really follow and track what's truth and what's not truth. You can see where one photograph kind of puts me, there with him, and then all the stories start to spin out. So I don't really know, because I didn't know him. It wasn't really my world. It's not really my world.
Piers,
Oh yes, he was in your world. Let's get to this part, because you see, shout out to Whitney Webb and the Unlimited Hangout, because I want to show you. I read this when this article was published. I read this on the show. This was back in April 2025. You guys remember this? Remember the one label under blackmail? The intersections of Diddy and the Epstein network. So there's Brett Ratner right there on the left. So let me get to the part, because I want to show you. We got to get past the Diddy part. If you haven't read this article, break it down sometime. Sit down and read it. It's long. That's why I said if you have a Saturday or whatever, just sit down and read it. But it reveals a lot of information. When we get into the MCA, the Mob Corporation of America, MCA Records. So sorry, guys, it's long. Just give me a second. I got to go to that picture to get to Brett Ratner. It's a lot of people mentioned in here. When there's Clive Davis, I want to make sure I didn't miss it. I'm sorry, guys. I should have had this in the spot already. Of course, Clive Davis is in here. I didn't realize how far down I went last time for this one. There it is. Okay. That's Brett Ratner right there on the left. That's Michael Jackson, and that's Diddy. Okay. Brett Ratner is not just some guy who made Melania's documentary that just came out. And at this time, let me just go down here. Malnick's own protege, his adopted son, Brett Ratner, claims to have also fostered a close relationship early on with Mayor Lansky himself. In a 2011 interview, Ratner stated the following: "I grew up on Miami Beach. I lived on Collins Avenue at the Courage House, 54th Street, sorry. And 2 doors down was the Imperial House, where every day after school, I would ride my bike and I would walk down the street with an old man who would walk his dog. We'd walk together, blah, blah, blah. I didn't realize it until I was in line at the supermarket with my mom, and I opened up Rolling Stone and saw his picture on the back. It was Mayor Lansky's obituary. Everybody thought it was weird because he was 80 and I was 12. He was the biggest gangster in the world, and he was like my best friend as a kid." But according to Brett Ratner, he told Piers Morgan he didn't grow up in that world. There's more as we go on here, because he's trying to act, all innocent there. While some may discount this claim as fantasy on Ratner's part, his close ties to Malnick, Lansky's heir, during the same period of his alleged association with Lansky lends the story credence. In addition, it is worth noting Ratner's big break that allowed him to become a famous director came somewhat unexpectedly in his mediocre film school career via Steven Spielberg. As previously noted, Spielberg was a protege of Wasserman and Scheinberg of MCA, a company with significant mob and intelligence affiliation, while Wasserman himself was connected to Lansky's network via his longtime tie to Lansky associate Mo Dalitz. Spielberg is also a reported member of the previously mentioned mega group that unites Spielberg with organized crime-linked oligarchs like Epstein's main benefactor, Leslie Wexner. See, there's that name again. Ratner would later follow the Lansky model of evading charges and scrutiny for illegal activities by immigrating to Israel. After he was accused of extreme sexual misconduct, including alongside Simmons, Ratner fled to Israel. A week before his escape, Ratner had been Benjamin Netanyahu's special guest, along with former Epstein defense lawyer Alan Dershowitz at the United Nations. But according to Brett Ratner, he wasn't in that world. So it's not just about the picture of Brett Ratner. He had allegations against him before, and he got on a plane and he fled to Israel when it happened. And we all know that Israel has become a haven for pedophiles. They are protected there. We talk about friends in low places. We can't forget about Peter Attia. Mr. Peter Attia, who was just hired by Barry Weiss at CBS News, by the way, he says he never visited Epstein's island or ranch. Peter Attia's assistant in 2015. Below are Peter's flight details for his trip to Jeffrey's ranch next week. I mean, these people can't even lie right. This is how bad it is. Peter's flight details for his trip to Jeffrey's ranch. This one, I think, if someone's going to go down, and by go down, I mean probably fired, it's going to be probably Peter Attia. Okay? They're looking to get rid of him now. Because he was probably, the emails and the files about him were probably some of the worst ones. This guy here kind of laid it out. I thought this was pretty funny.
I want to understand more about living.
Don't care. Hey, Dr. Attia, Mr. Celebrity Doctor Longevity Guy. Why are you listed in the Epstein files emailing with Jeffrey Epstein in 2016 talking about pussy being low carb? What is the fresh shipment you were emailing Epstein about? Why did you tell Epstein the biggest problem with becoming friends with you? The life you lead is so outrageous, yet I can't tell a soul. And while your son was in the hospital, you were in Manhattan chilling with Epstein. You're cooked, bro. CBS is probably going to fire you. And we'll see what happens as your job of chief science officer of this shitty protein bar company. Don't buy these. They sucked.
Yeah, that one, I don't see how he gets out of this one. He's probably going to be fired. If I had to pick someone that's probably going to be fired, it's probably going to be him. And that makes you question things around Barry Weiss, right? Why is it that Barry Weiss... why is she hiring all these people that's mainly pro-Israel? And she got an answer for that. She brought him in. Oprah's guru, apparently, they got emails of him in the Epstein files. Oprah's approved spiritual guru, Deepak Chopra, is one of them. This is what he wrote to Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know. The tiger is bringing me to places I had abandoned. It looks like the MGH Harvard Chopra Mind Brain Institute will actually happen, which means riding the tiger even more. I wanted validation from scientists. Some is happening and some will remain ever skeptical and condescending. Suddenly, it does not feel important. What do I enjoy most? I don't know that I can really say. My biological needs are met occasionally, but that too, it seems I've been there, done that. I have 3 more books to write, and then we'll be done with that as well. I will be going for 1 week silence at the end of this month with a small group. Maybe some more clarity than I do enjoy the company of younger, intellectually sharp and self-aware women, and love to engage with them to inspire and stimulate them. Well, and this is not the first person that Oprah has had as some type of spiritual guru that's end up in some type of abuse situation with younger girls. Have at it. We have seen this before. I forget the other guy's name. We talked about it before on the show. The other guy that she told people to go to. He's supposed to be some spiritual guru, and it turns out he was abusing those girls. You can't trust these people. The other one here I thought was interesting. Peter Thiel is also throughout the Epstein files. Epstein to Peter Thiel. Here we go here. Let me actually keep it this way because it's bigger. From Jeffrey to Peter Thiel. Donald's New York supporters concerned. We can talk if you like. He cannot release his tax returns. So what are his options? So that was August of 2016. That was before Donald Trump won the election for his first presidential term. Why the fuck is Jeffrey Epstein telling Peter Thiel that Donald New York supporters are concerned? The fuck that got to do with Peter Thiel? Another billionaire. And we know that Peter Thiel created JD Vance. JD Vance is Peter Thiel's creation. So everybody connecting the dots. You see what's happening here? All these people roll together. I can't believe people were dumb enough to put this in email. Then there's the Russia blame. Corporate media is now trying to find ways to say that Jeffrey Epstein was basically a Russian asset, that he was working for Russia, when every damn thing in the files shows you that Jeffrey Epstein was clearly Mossad. Jeffrey Epstein said so himself in other correspondence that he was representing the Rothschilds. It's very clear, but corporate media is saying that, oh, he must have been a Russian agent. Caitlin Johnstone, excellent journalist here. We're going to play part of the read here so you guys can see it yourself.
The Western press are trying to spin Epstein as a Russian agent. Epstein documents have been confirming for months that he was clearly and undeniably an Israeli intelligence operative, which the latest round of releases have strongly reinforced. So, naturally, the Western media are running with the story that Epstein worked for Vladimir Putin. A new Daily Mail article is headlined, "Epstein's Sex Empire was KGB honey trap. Pedophile financier had multiple talks with Putin after conviction, with Russian girls flown in to harvest compromat on world-famous figures." The Daily Mail is owned and controlled by billionaire British aristocrat Jonathan Harold Esmond Vera Harmsworth, 4th Viscount of Rothermere, who was the subject of a recent Guardian article titled "Move Over, Murdoch. Will Lord Rothermere be Britain's most powerful media mogul?" A headline from The Telegraph blares, "Epstein's links to Putin and Kremlin spies raise fears he was a Russian agent."
You guys get the point. So they're already trying to spin the narrative that he was actually working for Russia when every damn thing in the file show you he was working for Israel. This is how bad it is. This is why you guys had to come to independent media to find out more information. That's how low they're willing to go. Clear as day. Epstein, I represent the Rothschilds. Media, Epstein represent Russian. Clear as day. As you probably know, I represent the Rothschilds. But when you look at the titles, the headline, The Telegraph, Epstein links to Putin. Daily Express, Epstein files show Putin Russian spy links. Anyone but Israel. Epstein had friends in low places, but so did Donald Trump. And you'll see also in these files, Kevin Warsh partied with Epstein and Maxwell. Now he is head of the Federal Reserve, thanks to Trump. So you see this announcement that was just made. We got to follow the dots. All these rich, corrupt people, They all roll together. In fact, the more corrupt they are, it seems like the faster they climb the damn ladder. It was announced here, Kevin Warsh is the right man for the job. And there's Donald Trump handing it right over to him, right? Kevin Warsh, I mean, we got to follow this stuff. Let me show you the first one. Tuesday, December 1st, 2010. Here is the list I just sent to Harvey. How many people are with you tomorrow? So let's look at this list here. Please look this over. I think Roman's boat is bigger than Ron Perlman's. Wow, this is how these people are rolling. There's Kevin Warsh. So again, it's not like Kevin Warsh worked hard. He was in the club. Trump's moves helping out Israel. And when he was asked about Jeffrey Epstein, by the way, he is so done after this. When he was asked about Jeffrey Epstein, this is what he said.
And no, he made a statement about me and Jeffrey Epstein. I have nothing to do with that. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. And in fact, if you look at the DOJ, they announced, they released 3 million pages. It's like this is all they're supposed to be doing. And frankly, the DOJ, I think, should just say, we have other things to do, because that whole thing has turned out, I mean, other than Bill Clinton and, Bill Gates and lots of people that there are a lot of questions about it, but nothing on me. But it
blatant lie. He was in there over 5,000 times, guys, but he says nothing.
It was even sort of better than that, because they found that Jeffrey Epstein and this sleazebag writer named Michael Wolff were conspiring against Donald Trump to lose the election. So Epstein was conspiring with a writer for me to lose the election. So right there, you know that I had nothing to do with this guy. But yeah, it's a terrible thing. The amount of time that's being wasted. When Epstein was alive, like 10 years ago, nobody cared about it. But they're only doing it. But now it's really hitting back on them because Bill Clinton is such a big part of it. The Democrats are pushing it. And the problem is that it's turning out to be the Democrats that were with and conspired with Epstein. So I think you're probably going to see a little pullback from them. But think of it. They were working together to try and help me lose the election. But this is the Oval Office, so I guess that didn't work out too well.
You know what's sad about this? Everybody knew Bill Clinton was in there. We've all talked about Bill Clinton being in there. Actually, the very first time I talked about the Epstein files, I think it was about Bill Clinton. So it's weird because Donald Trump is acting as though people were like, oh my God, it's Bill Clinton. People been knew about that. Them pictures have been surfacing for quite some time. No, people shocked. A lot of his supporters shocked that your ass in there. So you see how he tries to explain it away? Oh, it's just about the Democrats. It's just Democrats. That's all. Panicking right now. The statements that he's leaving. Not only wasn't I friendly with Jeffrey Epstein, but based upon information that just has been released by the DOJ, Epstein and a sleaze bag lying author named Michael Wolff conspired in order to damage me or my presidency. So much for the radical left's hope against hope, some of whom I'll be suing. Additionally, unlike so many people that like to talk trash, I never went to the infested Epstein Island, but almost all of these crooked Democrats and their donors did. So you know what I noticed that Donald Trump does? He always says that he didn't go to the island, as if that was the only property that Jeffrey Epstein had. Jeffrey Epstein had multiple properties. So it's not like you didn't have to go to his island. You went to his penthouse, his townhouse apartment in New York City. Did you go to Zorro Ranch? He had multiple properties. So this is something that Donald Trump likes to do. He'll focus just on one particular area so that you forget about all the other areas. Let me just focus on the island because that's what most people know about, so that you don't ask questions about the other locations. He's crashing out. He's crashing out. He kicked the people out. Kicked the people out.
Appreciate it. Thank you, please. Thank you.
Mr. President, can you respond to the new Fox poll that says people think ICE's tactics are too aggressive? Photographers, reporters, we're done. Thank you. Cameras, we're going.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Are we going to flip for this, or what are we going to do?
What's crazy is you got RFK Jr. standing behind him there. RFK Jr.'s wife was in the ex-wife was in the Epstein files. Can we go to the next part? Eric was in the Epstein files where Jeffrey Epstein, I covered this in the other video. After she died, he responded, whoops. We go back to Elon Musk. Elon Musk, of course, was probably the first name that many mentioned about the Epstein files. Here is Elon Musk's daughter confirming that she and Elon Musk were at St. Bart's when the email from Elon to Epstein went out. Oh, it's really not looking good for Elon Musk. I'm just going to speak directly instead of being vague and cryptic. I can confirm we were in St. Bart's at the time specified in the emails, and therefore I believe they are authentic. This has basically already been confirmed through his attempts to paint them as out of context. The Nile is a river in Egypt. I knew nothing about the emails previously, so I'm learning about everything at the time as y'all. If there's any other information I learn that I can corroborate, I will do so. That's coming from Elon Musk's daughter. If you remember, Elon was begging to come to the island. After lying to everybody else, he told everyone else that he wasn't begging to come there. He didn't ask to come there, that Jeffrey Epstein invited him and he turned it down. Talk about having egg on your face. And all of this is interesting because it leads us to this point right now. Elon Musk's office in France, his ex-office in France, formerly Twitter, was raided. They are accusing Elon Musk's ex of glorifying child pornography. You see, it all comes full circle, ladies and gentlemen. This came out earlier today. Check this out.
French prosecutors are searching ex's offices in a probe into possible child abuse images and deepfakes. The preliminary investigation is looking into a range of alleged offenses by the social media platform, including spreading child sex abuse images. In a message posted on X, Paris prosecutor's office announced the ongoing searches at X's French offices, saying the goal is to ensure X complies with French law. The prosecutor's office also says it's leaving the platform and calling on its followers to join it on other social media. Let's bring in foreign correspondent.
You guys see this?
Tom Sufi Burridge for more on that. So, Tom, what's the latest on this investigation and where does it go from here?
Yeah, so the cybercrime unit of the Paris prosecutor's office, Diane, this morning conducted a search of the offices of X in Paris as part of an ongoing investigation into the social media platform owned by Elon Musk. And in conjunction with that, it also announced that it was summoning Elon Musk and the chief executive of X, Linda Yaccarino, to voluntary hearings as part of this investigation in April. The Paris prosecutor's office saying that this investigation is being done in a constructive manner to ensure that X complies with French law.
So now you have Elon Musk, who was begging in the email to go on that island and asking about the girls. You now have his ex-office in Paris was raided and is being accused. There is an investigation into child abuse images. You cannot make this up. These are rich, evil people. That just came out today. And we cannot end this without talking about the simps, right? Because through all of this that has come out, you know who is really quiet right now? Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly, who said, well, you know, Epstein, from what I understand, he was interested in girls that were, you know, like 15 and over. It's not like he was looking at people who were under 15, which was also disingenuous because she tried to make it seem like Epstein was the only one who was abusing these underage girls. But since information from the files has been released where it shows that there were people under that age of 15, Megyn Kelly went radio silence I haven't seen Megyn Kelly say a damn thing on Twitter about the Epstein files. Where you at, Megyn? Where you at? Nowhere to be found. You know who else is biting their tongue right now? Is Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino's pissed because people called him a punk. Because that's exactly what he was. He got into that position and he became a punk.
The third group of people I want to address are the grifters out there who mistakenly thought I wasn't coming back. Now, I am back. The Podfather is back, and I'm here to take back this movement. This movement's been hijacked by a small group of dipshits and bums and losers who are nothing but doomers under the frame of accountability. I'm all about accountability. I just showed you what we did or what we didn't.
It's hilarious.
Did I not? I'm not sitting here going, hey, trust me, bro. I showed you. If you like it, great. If you don't, that is absolutely your constitutional right. You paid for it to go out and go, that sucked. I would have done something different. Okay, but you didn't. You didn't do anything different. I'm not sure if you volunteered to serve or not, but you didn't. You sat in the front row with your popcorn, ankle biting, throwing this popcorn at the ring at two guys in there sparring away, fighting for this country while you did shit. You just talked about it. So you didn't do anything. Now, I'm back on the air. I'm not going to take on every single thing in one day in one show, but I'm telling you right now, your bullshit, I'm done with it. The grifter bums, all you guys are a class of doomers. Everything sucks all the time. You would have done it different. You didn't do shit. You did nothing. You didn't volunteer. You didn't ask. You didn't give up your show to do. You did nothing. All you did was bullshit people and say nothing's happening. And then when we tell you, oh, it just happened, you move on to something else you say is not going to happen. And then when that happens, you move on to something else. You want to critique it, say you would have done better, step up. Step up. Go ahead. They got openings. You go try it. See what you're dealing with.
You know, it got crazier because apparently during that stream, Dan Bongino was muting people if you mentioned the word Epstein. So it's like, something went wrong. You have been muted by the creator. This motherfucker called himself the Podfather. We gotta drop the beat for this one. I'm sorry. We gotta do under pressure. Can we do pressure? We're gonna do pressure for this one. This is bad.
Let's see how you do under pressure. Let's see how you do under pressure. Give them a name to remember. Hey, let's see how you do under pressure. Let's see how you do under pressure. A moment can live on forever.
A moment can live on forever. Forever, Dan. We're talking about it, how people are acting now, even when it comes to Kash Patel. Watch the hand signals he makes as he's reading some of this. Watch. Did you guys see that? The hand gesture there? Yeah, they know that they fucked up. They know they know it. And it's just, they lied. They lied to you. They lied to everybody to protect themselves. Now, I do want to show you this because what we have to realize is that at the end of the day, they don't need Jeffrey Epstein anymore. Do you understand what I'm saying? They don't need that anymore. We talk about friends in low places. They got Palantir now. In fact, Whitney Webb warned people about this when she was on Bad Faith podcast Listen to this.
But again, to bring it back to a question you asked earlier on about, Israel and blackmail, they don't really need blackmail anymore. And I argue at the end of my book that Palantir, Peter Thiel's company, really makes it so that, that's the new Jeffrey Epstein at the end of the day. If they want to blackmail you or know something about you, they just access what Palantir sucked up about you and your search history, your communications, your finances, tweets you've liked in the past, all sorts of things. You don't really need Epstein in the surveillance era,
Do you think when they said tweets are private, it was just an inducement to get us all to like what we really want to like so they can hold it against us later?
It's possible if they want to hold it against you later. The disturbing thing about Palantir is that it's really about pre-crime. They were the pioneers of predictive policing. They were originally, almost everywhere they piloted predictive policing had been low-income minority neighborhoods, where they decide who's going to commit a crime before they commit it.
I've been trying to warn people, right? So yeah, it's like Jeffrey Epstein served his purpose. He wasn't the first one. And the trafficking thing has been going on for years. So it's not like there was no trafficking before Jeffrey Epstein. But he served his purpose. And now they have, Palantir, they have something else that they can use. So just because Jeffrey Epstein is not in that role anymore that we know of, just because he's dead that we know of, that doesn't mean that this doesn't still continue. And I think this is why I always say there's a difference between taking down a person and taking down a system, because people can be replaced. If this is new to you, if you're not as familiar with the Epstein stuff, I highly recommend that you go to unlimitedhangout.com. This is where Whitney Webb, a lot of her articles are here. You can find it, like, this goes way back. I think the earliest one is from 2021. So Whitney has been talking about this a long time. Back in May of 2021, she was talking about the Bill Gates connection with Jeffrey Epstein. So go to Unlimited Hangout and you can find a lot of those articles. You can also check out Whitney Webb's books that she wrote called One Nation Under Blackmail, Volume 1 and Volume 2. A lot of the things that you are seeing come forward in the Epstein files now were already mentioned in these articles or in her books. Now, there's been some things that I did not see that came forward recently, and I was like, holy shit. So we try to cover, as much as we can. And that brings me to this question. When people see things like this, you can't unsee it. Once you see just how twisted and dark the rich and the powerful can be, once you know, you don't forget it. So then the question becomes, where do we go from here? Guys, I'm going to tell you something that a lot of people don't like to hear. Voting is a tool in your toolbox, but it's not the only tool in your toolbox. Voting doesn't stop this. Because when you have two parties that are corrupt and corporate and they're paid for, look at how long it took for them to even bring some of the files forward. They've been had this information. So that's one tool in your toolbox. What has happened in this country over the years is that we stop using the other tools as a nation. There are still people organizing locally. But it's almost like if there was an apple right in front of us and it looks nice and shiny, and then we slice that apple and we realize that it's rotten at the core. The core of the apple is rotten. So we slice around the rotten part of the core and we eat the part of the apple that is not rotten. That's what we've been doing. When we just say, I'm just going to take this tool of voting and I'm just going to hope that these people go into politics, they do the right thing and they fix all of this, you're just chipping around that rotten core. What we should have and what we need to demand is to have a shiny apple that we slice open and isn't rotten at the core. We deserve it and we need to demand it. I think we have been standing in the middle of the road and the bus is coming towards you. And it's like, the bus is coming and you probably need to get out of the road, but we're not getting out of the road. We're taking our chances. And I say this again, not to harp on people, but the way that you fight back against something like this is by building dual power. You fight back against something like this by organizing and building alternative systems. You cannot take down something like this in the system you are in, because they're all complicit. The politicians are complicit. The billionaires, they're all in on it. They're the architects of it. So this is why I push mutual aid. We need a massive movement across this country, as large as the pro-Palestinian movement, even larger, that focuses on corruption and that focuses on class. We don't have that. That is part of the problem. Because you can go out here and vote for this person and vote for that person. Yeah, that's one tool. And that might give you some crumbs here and there, but they ain't gonna stop this shit. When I tell you it's a class war, this is what I've been trying to explain to people over and over again. The elites, they're at the tippity top. We're all at the bottom. You may think you're not at the bottom. 9 times out of 10, you at the bottom. Even people who are doctors and lawyers, you're still at the bottom when you compare them to these people. So we need a massive movement that focuses on key demands, and we need to get things better for us. But you cannot have a massive movement without mutual aid structures in place. So every month I teach mutual aid workshops because you just can't. The civil rights movement, they had mutual aid. The Women's March, the women's movement had mutual aid. When all these employees go on strike, they have mutual aid. So they are able to eat, so they're able to pay their bills. But I'm here to tell you, and I'm warning you now, that this system, the way that it is not sustainable. It is us against them. And they can take all of us out very simply by using things like AI. We're just going to use AI to take your jobs. We're going to use Palantir to do pre-crime prediction. So you're going to get arrested for something that it predicts you might do, but you didn't do it. They have different ways of going after this. You see, we live in a country that even during a pandemic, they didn't even want to give y'all asses health care. I don't know what to tell you with that one. So it's very clear that you can't just rely on the tool of electoral politics. We have to organize, we have to mobilize, and start by doing that locally. Start working with people locally in your neighborhood, in your area. Look it up online. There are plenty of organizations that are around you. Start mobilizing and organizing with other people, because the reality is we continue to sit back, all these politicians and stuff. If things keep going the way they're going, these corrupt people are going to take us down. Billionaires have bunkers. We don't. I don't have no bunker. You got a bunker? They will continue to stomp on the working class. We're talking about a government that aided and abetted a genocide. You think they care about us? We're talking about a government that wanted to cover up for child sex trafficking. You think they're going to help us? The crimes of the empire come home. This Epstein network is global. It wasn't just a domestic. It wasn't just on that island. He was working with people all across the world. So the way out of this is by building dual power. That's the part I think a lot of people don't want to say. They don't want to do it. They don't want to say it because it's easier just to go stand in line and vote. Where has that gotten us? So I'm not telling you not to vote, but I'm telling you, you need to start using the other tools that are in your toolbox. One of the things that you can see here, thank you, Eric, for writing this, an MCDS analysis of the latest Epstein dump. And this is something MCDS, for those who are new, is money, corruption, demands, and solution, right? The core takeaway of the latest release of the Epstein files is this: the corruption is systemic. It's not just Epstein. It's not just a few individuals. It's not just one party or the other. It's how power in the current system operates. Systemic problems need systemic solutions. Putting it into 11 demands framework: money, corruption, demand, solution. M is a small number of billionaires at the top call the shots, and they make sure the system operates in their interests. That's the money. The corruption. Epstein is one of many tools that they use to corrupt the government, a government that should be working for the 99%, not the top 0.1%. Demands. We need to be clear about our core demand: fix big money in politics and government. And solution. Real demand leads to real solutions. To see this in action, check out 11 demands. We need a mass movement based on clear demands with a strong focus on corruption. It's up to all of us to be crystal clear about our demands. Eric, can you put the link to this in the chat? And this is important for people to see, because here's the thing. I don't know how to say it more clearly. A lot of people don't want to tell you this. They don't want you to hear it because they know what's coming. And we only got a certain amount of time. I'm here to tell you. You see what's happening with AI. You go back to the days of our revolutionary leaders and you learn and you look and you see they knew that they couldn't just use electoral politics, that tool. They knew they had to organize on the outside. And they did it without the internet. We have no excuse. So if you're interested, if you want to get started with something like that, I host a mutual aid workshop once a month. It's free. I do it virtually on Zoom. I ain't asking for no money. Everybody needs to learn how to do this. It's going to come a time when you may need it. And we did the one for January. We'll be doing another one for February. So I'll send it out via my Substack. I always announce it on the show as well, so you can come and attend that. It's pretty informative time, I think. But you got to start building. And I'm going to tell you something else. The one guy that you call crazy, that one guy in rural America that's been stocking up for years, whether it's water, that may have all this stuff in their basement preparing for that day if it comes. He don't look too crazy anymore now, does he? So they keep tearing us apart by left versus right. The longer we allow this to happen, we're never going to go after the core corruption, which is the billionaire class. That's really where it lies there, ladies and gentlemen. So as long as we keep focusing on left versus right, which is what they want us to do, and they've been doing a really good job of that, you'll always have people to keep the culture war going. They don't know what else to do because the economy sucks. So they can't be like, oh, the Democrats mess up the economy when the Republicans mess up the economy. You know, so they're going to try to do it with the culture war issues, which is what they've been doing to keep us apart. Nobody wants people. A lot of people don't want to tell you this. The people who work for the DNC don't want to tell you this. The people who work for the GOP, they don't want to tell you this. At the end of the day, a lot of these people are friends. They fight on camera, and then behind closed doors, they're buddy-buddy. They know the game. Do you? Let's see that poll, Eric. All right. Thank you for the votes, ladies and gents. What are your thoughts on the Epstein files? 15% say I'm shocked. 46% say not shocked. I knew about it. 32% say shocked by some of the info. And 7% say I haven't seen them. That's 4,845 votes. Thank you, guys. Okay, we are going to do call in, ladies and gents. So I hope to see you over there. Eric's going to pop on and do the rest of the super chats. I'll take 5. I'll be back, and then we'll go over to the call in.
All right. So, yeah, like Sabrina was calling out here. Here, let me adjust my screen a little bit. There we go. Yeah, MCDS, Money Corruption Demand Solutions. It's one of the key parts of 11 Demands. And yeah, I'll put it in the chat again, the link to that Substack article if you're interested in that. And the one other thing I just wanted to highlight on that is that, and people are asking, what do we do next? And, part of it is educating yourself. And there's a link in here to an earlier Substack post called an MCDS State of Mind. And it gets into the idea of just using MCDS as a framework, as a way to analyze things. And so in this post, and you can see all this stuff at 11demands.org. If you there's a section on there on the Substack post. And so, you can look at health that way, you can look at economy that way, you can look at war that way. And so the concept is, let's get educated. Let's, see how things are really working. Let's talk to other people about that. Whether it's people in our real life, if it's people online, if you're in social media, if you're in chats, you can be putting these ideas out there. I'm saying we need at the core a mass movement based on clear demands with the strong focus on corruption. And the corruption part is really a strong issue that crosses, left and right lines. And let's see, how can we collaborate on this and build on this? And, how can we be a spark to make real change? And, there's the whole, voting question, right? And some people like to say, I'm not going to vote. Voting doesn't work. You can't trust the voting. And, I get that. What we need is good candidates to vote for is really what's key. Because, if you look at this, we have to have a government. I mean, we have to have, a system. It's, and any mass movement isn't going to go anywhere unless it really recognizes that. And we have to have a government, if it's going to work for the 99%, that runs off of real democracy, not what we have now, the democracy of dollars. So the real rub is, how do we get from here to there, where we do have candidates that aren't part of the corrupt duopoly? And, I would submit the path to get there is to have a mass movement, based on these clear demands, that then you have leaders arising out of the movement and becoming candidates. And I think there's a path there to making this democracy start to really work. So, that more at the old 11demands.org. Also, we're transitioning the show right now over to the call-in part. So if there are any comments or questions on this part of it, and you can jump on the call-in and say your piece, or have discussions about what we're talking about here with that part of it. Sabrina's setting up that room right now, so we'll have the link for that for you shortly. You'll also be able to get there through sabbysabs2.com, but we'll tell you all about that in a few minutes, right after I read off these queued up super chats. All right, thanks for the super chat. Erika Tight Leather Pants Kirk, who says, everybody hit the like button. Always a good idea. Thanks for that. And shout out to Roger Meadows, who says, that guy got me side-eyeing the Jedis now. And thanks much for the super sticker from Piano Man. Appreciate that. And thanks for the super chat. Wasim, who says, same with Billy Bob Thornton and Angela Jolie sharing B-word vials as necklace when married. Thornton acts in shows on Paramount, and Jolie is involved with NGOs. And thanks also, Wasim, for this one. Laith Marouf told Garland Nixon that if the West does not revolt to remove their sick leaders, they are a lost cause. And thanks for this one, Raphael, who says, was the rapper Drake also close to Epstein? Kendrick exposed him, and he was an NR1 rapper on Spotify for so long and has Jewish background. Shout out to Hope versus Hope X Division, who says, I'm pretty sure the 2020 Netflix doc about Epstein had clues that Epstein had control of the police. And thanks, Sherelle, who says, that's some crazy logic. quote, I might be a Satanist, but at least I'm not black. And thanks to Kenman, who says fiance was Rebecca Gayhart. I think saying who he thinks Brett Ratner's fiance was. Okay, it's an interesting theory. And thanks for this one, R. Bailey. This is the first time racism was good for black people. There you go. And Kenman, thanks for the super chat. Atia never finished medical residency. And Kenman also says Oprah's job is defending creeps. There you go. Thanks for those, Kenman. And thanks for this one from Smart Arts Productions, who says Warrant needed ASAP to dig up Trump's golf course. Watch satellite imagery in case bodies are moved. If there's bodies there, campaign for a search warrant. That is an interesting theory. And thanks for this one, Kenman. Naomi Campbell awful also. Any new material? And thanks for the super sticker, Smart Art Production. And also thanks for this one who says, forget Russia. The real threat to the U.S. comes from Israel and the Israel lobby. Quoting Julian Assange, he knew and said it years ago. And, I would just say also just always keep, connect the dots to the billionaire class, because that's where the power is. And thanks for this one, Takubochu, who says, so Putin banned from Russia. Oh, so he says Putin has banned from Russia, Soros, the Rothschilds, satanic temples, and LGBT. Thanks for the super chat, Batty Jones. Worse everyday channel enhanced the sound on Trump fart. Says worse everyday channel enhanced the sound on Trump fart that cleared the press out. It was wet, wet, wet. Okay.
That's a channel. That's the name of a channel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And thanks for this one, Skyman. Never forget to ask yourself the golden question, why now? Make no mistake, this club is simply cutting its weakest links. All right. Do you want to pick up on a few more here?
Yeah. Let's see where that one is.
John, Measured Man here.
Measured Man. Okay, gotcha. Thank you, Measured Man. Boy, if you don't get out of here, you only back on top of Rumble because you Teal Vance own Rumble. Bye, Bongino. Still doing my part as veteran. Thank you, Zaldivar, United States of PDF files. There you go. Thank you, Sherelle. Sabby's right. Don't just vote. Create competition for these billionaires, banks, companies. Teach others. If all else fails, we still have guns. Thank you, James. Utah at Mahmoud OD. Thank you. And thank you, Glam. Hi, Eric. How can I join the call-in session? I'm new here and I'm really enjoying this live. Thanks. Okay. Yeah. So it's pinned at the very top. We'll go ahead and transition there now. The link is pinned at the very top of the live stream chat for the call-in. It's a Zoom link. And I'm going to go ahead and I open the room while I'm on the stream to make sure everybody gets in. Okay.
Roger just came in with a super chat.
Click on that there. And then when you enter, I ask that you please mute your mic. And if you want to speak, the way this works is at the very bottom of the Zoom, there's an option to raise your hand, little icon there. If you click on, for mine, it's iPhone. So I click on more and it's raise your hand. That's how I know you want to speak. And then I call on you from there. So that's how we do it, ladies and gents. And
Roger,
you said you had something from Roger? Oh, thank you, Roger. Start mutual aid and run CBIs for, I don't know where that went. Start mutual aid and run CBIs, worker co-op amendments in your state to combat AI, plus chartering public banks to take down the Wall Street Rothschild Zionist banking system. Yeah, there you go. That's what I mean when I say dual power and building alternative systems. Roger is on it. If you come into the stream a little bit later, we're going to go on call-in. We'll be there till midnight Eastern time. But if you come in a little bit later, just go to sabbysabs2.com and you'll get the Zoom link that way as well. All right. People
All
are
right.
already over there. I see hands raised. So
Set me
let's
up
go
as
ahead.
co-host.
I'll make you a co-host. Co-hosting.
All right. I'll see you all in there.
I don't know why, but I can't. Okay, there you go. All right. And Eric, I made you a co-host. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the live show for tonight. We are now transitioning over to Zoom for the call-in segment of the show. Again, we'll be there till 12 p.m. Eastern time. And then after that, we will be heading out. So see you there. All right. You know how we do this, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.